a little cool there. Is that you?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, January 27th. It is 9 a.m. We will call the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. We will start by rising with a moment of silence for our first responders and law enforcement, followed by the invocation by Pastor Tracy Moore. Please rise.
Our Father in heaven, we come to you this day. And Father, I just pray that you be with our city, that you be with these commissioners and the decisions that they make. Father, give them the wisdom that they need, and as they care for the people in this, and right here in this city, in this county. And Father, I just ask you to guide them in the best way possible. Father, we are so thankful for the sacrifices that each one of them make, and even their families, and so they can do this job. And we thank you for the citizens of this city as well. Father, just continue to be with us and bless us in everything we do. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome. Commissioner Adams is just 3 or 4 minutes behind. She got held up this morning, so we will proceed. Commissioners, any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mr. Administrator.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Under 5B, we have a presentation for the Quail Valley Charities and other charitable organizations' commitment regarding the Indian River County Youth Training Center at Sandridge Club, and then Sandridge Golf Club, rather. And then at 9L is a resolution to that effect. So if possibly we can read that resolution at the same time after the presentation, the board can consider that. That'd be one. 9L, the Floravon Shores Septic to Sewer Project. We need to pull that for one meeting or so because the community meeting is needs to be planned, and we want to have that before it comes to the board.
Okay.
And then the last thing I would just is under the consent agenda 9A, approval of a SimplyGov enterprise workflow automation platform. We will want to move that to departmental matters, which would be under information technology, would make it 13E1.
So 9A goes under 13B1.
E1, yes, sir, E, echo.
Gotcha. Commissioners, any additional changes or addition or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to offer what the county administrator did about the Quail Valley resolution. I would be honored if you'd let me read it, sir, when that time comes.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion about the additions or deletions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Commissioners and friends, the next agenda item will be a presentation and proclamation for the Vero Beach Museum of the Arts, the 40th anniversary, and this will be administered by Commissioner Joe Flesher. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for the honor and privilege of presenting this proclamation. As you're aware, no civilization is complete without a museum, a library, a place that we can contain, maintain, procure the art of a civilization. And we're pleased and honored to have had that benefit for many, many years, so 40 years. Would you like to come up to the podium? Again, it's with great pleasure to present this, and we anticipate hearing some great things that are happening. Just right at the podium would be great. That we'll hear some great things that are happening at the Vero Beach Museum. Thank you. Once again, this is the Vero Beach Museum of Art 40th anniversary. Whereas the Vero Beach Museum of Art, a nonprofit organization founded as the Alliance for the Arts in 1978 to create a regional center for the appreciation and teaching of the arts and humanities, and opened to the public debt-free on January 31st, 1986 in Riverside Park as the Center of the Arts. Whereas in 2002, the museum changed its name to the Vero Beach Museum of Art and was recognized in 2025 by ReMuseum as one of the best attended small museums in the nation, serving 78,000 annually, and the blockbuster exhibitions such as Art Deco automobiles that drew 40,000 over a 3-month period, and through those programs for families, schools, the experience for pre-K grade 12, art classes, and the community access programs that provide and enrich to 39,000 each year. And whereas in November 7th, 2025, the museum broke ground on a new building and transformed the campus to ensure its long-term sustainability and resilience, double its gallery space, extend its programming capabilities, and create a new public space for the community gathering and exchange. And whereas the Vero Beach Museum of Art on February 14th, 2026 will celebrate the 40th year of service for the Indian River County with a free community celebration of the arts. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board congratulates the Vero Beach Museum of Art on 40 years of cultural enrichment for the Indian River County and its residents, duly adopted this 27th day of January 2026, and this proclamation is signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Morning.
thank you.
Yes,
Ms. Elders, if you'd like to say a few words?
yes.
Just a couple on behalf of my colleagues, Mary Ann Sprinkle and John Safranek and Brady Roberts, who our executive director, who's not here. We really recognize and we are grateful for the vision of the community members who came together to create that Center for the Arts 40 years ago. And as we look toward our future, their great vision and their great commitment to this community will only be magnified through the work that we will continue to do as we move ahead. So thank you very much for recognizing our 40 years.
Well, thank you. It is an exciting time for sure. I think a few of us were at the ribbon cutting not long ago, and each of us have had a tour, and it's a very exciting time. So we thank you and welcome. We'd like to take a quick photo, if you don't mind.
We would love to do that as well.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, wait. After you do that. One more. Thank you. Congratulations once again. Thank you.
Fantastic, and thank you to the museum. Commissioners, next is a presentation for the Quail Valley Charities and the other charitable organization commitment to fund and design and construction of the Indian River County Youth Training Center at Sand Ridge Golf Club. It is a very exciting time, obviously, this morning, not only with the museum, but the things that are coming up at Sand Ridge, and 2026 looks to be a wonderful year so far. Welcome, Mr. Zito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. Just a brief presentation on the companion item 9L under consent is the actual resolution that you'll be voting on. But with us today is a very positive collaboration of youth-based charities in Indian River County, primarily the Indian River Golf Foundation and Roger Van Dyke, whose name is synonymous with that organization, and is here today with us. Paul McGinley is a household name in golf. He's a European Ryder Cup champion, PGA Tour champion, a familiar face on the Golf Channel, and has approached Quail Valley Charities together with the Indian River Golf Foundation to start a conceptual discussion about building a youth training center, not for youth collegiate golf, but for the underserved residents of Indian River County who we want to establish an outreach program to bring them into Sand Ridge and train under Bella, under the IRGF, and under Paul's collaboration. So it's a tremendous opportunity, but it's not our first foray into youth golf. In fact, standing next to me is our golf pro, Bella Nagy. I'm proud to say he's been supporting youth golf for the last 30 years at Sand Ridge, and the last 18 of which has been in conjunction with the Indian River Golf Foundation. So Bella, tell us about some of the events that and programs that we're currently running, and now we enter this new chapter.
Good morning, everyone. Excited to be here today. So what started out as a couple summer camps when I first started Sand Ridge back in 95 has now blossomed into a year-round offering with 5-day-a-week programming basically for kids in our county. Plus, we've become the mecca now for junior golf in the state of Florida, and attract junior golfers from around the world with our American Junior Golf Association event that we have in June every year, as well as the Florida Junior Tour, South Florida PGA, and U.S. Kids. So it's a wonderful time right now, and I'm really excited to have this opportunity with Paul McGinley and for the Indian River Golf Foundation and Quail Valley Charities. Really appreciate Don Meadows and Kevin Gibbon for bringing this opportunity to us.
Thank you, Bella. So as he mentioned, Don Meadows is the golf pro at Quail Valley, and Kevin Gibbon is the general manager. We've been meeting with this group for about a month, approached you all individually, but today we're going to give you a little more detail. But again, this is just in support of a resolution, very similar to what the commission did for the Martin Luther King Park project, where you gave your support of cooperation that if the funds are raised, we would be there to collaborate with the land and the construction. So very similar concept here today. Just to give you a little background, we did compile a short video, and this is put together by Danny Portez in Recreation, who condensed 18 minutes of video into 3 minutes for your benefit. So it's some talent involved there, but you'll see it bounce around a little bit. That's just to give you a feel for the celebrity of Paul McGinley, for what the Quail Valley Charities mission is all about, Indian River Golf Foundation. And of course, Paul mentions in the video that he's working with the city. Of course, he's endearing to the city of Vero Beach, where he's ensconced to live. But he is actually working with the county in this endeavor, along with the other two groups that I mentioned. So without further ado, if we're fortunate enough, the technology will play, and we'll see what we have here. Okay. I'll try it again.
The night shot.
Okay. Well, while we're working that out, we'll give you some more detail, and we'll put it up on our website and email it individually to you all, give you some more background. But this may be a good time to ask Kevin to come on up and give you some detail from his perspective. Mr. Gibbon, if you want to come up and join us, if you can get that going, we'll just interrupt us. Yeah, that's fine.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Given, one of the owners here at Quail Valley. And
So we go from Luke Donald to another
All right,
successful
perfect.
European rider, captain
what
Paul
I've
McGinley. Back in 2002, Paul famously sunk this putt in the 18th hole at the Belfry to secure the half point needed for Team Europe to win the Ryder Cup. And then in 2014, he successfully captained the European Ryder Cup team to victory at Glen Eagles in Scotland, Europe defeating Team USA 16.5 to 11.5 to win their third straight Ryder Cup. For taking the time to join us today. It's a pleasure to see you. Let's start talking about the McGinley Foundation. What is the mission of your foundation, and how did it partner with Quail Valley in its Collegiate Invitational?
Now, my ultimate goal is to try to raise some money to build a facility. We're working with the city, and we're hoping to with the Golf Association of Vero Beach as well too. And we're hoping to create a facility that's going to be something that I can spend more and more time with as the years go by down the road, where I will spend more time spending time around it, funding it, and bringing young kids in particular into the game.
I brought to Kevin and Steve the idea of, what do we think about a collegiate event? I've got a little bit of a background in doing that, and I've got some connections, if you will, with coaches that are still in the industry, and they like the idea.
And we obviously want to promote amateur golf, and the collegiate was the way that we decided to go with that. With the addition of the McGinley Foundation, with Paul McGinley really stepping in to elevate it, we look for the next decade to be great years ahead.
My foundation was formed in 2013, the year before I was Ryder Cup captain. We've been raising funds for initiatives that particularly around young people. That's really what we try to do more than anything, is help out young kids. And it doesn't have to be just golf.
I've been here at Sandridge Golf Club for over 30 years and worked with thousands of juniors. In the last 18 years with the Indian River Golf Foundation, we've had a shared goal of molding kids into great human beings, not just good golfers.
And we're so excited because the IRGF has been proposing a training center to the county for many years, but it's just been a bridge too far. Now with the help of Quail Valley Charities, we can make it a reality to help grow the game of golf in Indian River County, but mostly benefit our youth to grow in both life skills and enjoy the game of golf.
Well, I'm 10 years now living in Vero Beach area, and I've played all the golf courses around here. And
the other thing about this tournament that's so important is the charitable aspect of it. Vero Beach is a very giving community. There's so much philanthropy that goes on here, and to be able to give to grow the game of golf locally in particular, and with this Indian River Golf Foundation and the McGinley Foundation really making a commitment to Indian River County is very, very special to us.
We also are a big part of the community as far as giving. We have an arm called the Quail Valley Charities, Inc., which we've given out $14 million since inception.
yeah, well, one of the things that's really impressive about the whole community here is how welcoming it is. And to have this collegiate event here, money has been raised, invested back into the community. And my objective is to take that and put a bit of profile around it, use my brand, and hopefully build a facility. That's what I'm really aiming for. I want to build a really, really good facility here. That's my vision. I am involved. I am in Scots in the community. I will be here for a long period of time, touch wood. And I want to do something for the community and give back to it. And I want to be identified as a Vero Beach resident. And the best way for me to do that is to do it through the conduit of golf.
All right, I'll jump back in. Again, good morning, and thank you for having me up here. I'll just touch on the video to kind of clarify a few things. So Quail Valley Charities, Inc., we started that in 2002, and we've given a little over $14 million to non-for-profit youth and children and educational programs here in Indian River County. That's been the goal of our organization. This past year, we partnered with the McGinley Foundation. Paul and I sort of hail from the same part of Ireland together, and when he moved here, and his foundation was set up a number of years ago with sort of similar alignment with us. So we have used our collegiate amateur event that we've had for about 13, 14 years now as a springboard to raise money for this facility to jointly partner with Sandridge and the Indian River Golf Foundation. So that's where all the idea came behind, and our goal is to raise, $3.5–4 million to be able to get this facility done. And I'd be remiss not to thank Mike and Bella. They've been great to work with. The county should be very proud of these two individuals. They're true gentlemen. If you haven't, for those that may be watching, or in the audience, if you haven't been out to Sandridge, I've been in the golf business for 40-plus years. It's one of the finest public facilities in the United States. And also, I want to thank Roger Van Dyke. I've known Roger since I moved here about 35 years ago. And, you know, he wears it on his sleeve every day. He's, you know, been a golf professional and then transitioned into promoting youth golf. And, you know, this was his original vision, and we want to kind of help him carry that forward with everything. So I'll stop there, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to step in and answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Bella and Mike, for what you do, and we look forward to this partnership. It's good times, and with that, go ahead.
Mr. Gammon, I just have to say that from the very start, when Mike and Bella began to talk about this early on, I was excited, clearly. It reminds me of the program that Major League Baseball has provided for the youth. It reminds me of the Gifted Youth Orchestra, putting a skill, a talent, recreation, and discipline into individuals who would not otherwise have had the opportunity to do. It's very exciting. It's not about the bowl and the club. It's about what's created. When I have the opportunity to watch Mr. Van Dyke, the connection and what it does for youth development, this is just priceless of what's about to happen. And personally, I can't thank you enough. I think the county can't thank you enough for moving forward with such a vision and facilitating an opportunity that would never have existed otherwise. Yes, they do a great job at Sandridge. And watching the youth and the skills, other than just, again, striking the ball and getting it where it has to go, and one day be able to say, I've struck an eagle. That's about all I know about golf. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. There's not many golf courses. But to watch the children, to be able to connect, remove their cover, shake a hand, be connected to what's right, that is the key here. Yeah, they'll learn golf, but more importantly it's the tools that you implement in the process. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleischer. And I also just want to, as part of the resolution that's in front of you, it is our hope to encourage other like-minded non-for-profits, other clubs, to join us in this fundraising effort, so that we can make this a reality. And again, we thank you for your time today.
And speaking of fundraising efforts, the Quail Valley Charities 5K is this Saturday at 8 a.m. I'm signed up. It's going to be a hot race on a cold day, but I think the sign-up is still open.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Commissioner.
thank you for that. I understand Commissioner Ehrman would like to read the resolution, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County supporting local charitable organizations led by Quail Valley Charities' commitment to fund and design the construction of the Indian River County Youth Training Center at Sandridge Golf Club. Whereas Quail Valley Charities is the 501c3 organization and since its inception in 2001, dedicated to funding select nonprofit organizations and programs in Indian River County which focus solely on children and their education. Whereas Sandridge Golf Club has a rich and illustrious tradition of developing youth golf in Indian River County since 1987. Whereas the tradition expanded with the creation of the Indian River Golf Foundation, the IRGF, in 2008, dedicated to developing youth through the game of golf, offering programs that inspire confidence, character, and lifelong skills on and off the course. Whereas Quail Valley Charities has expressed their desire to develop a youth training location and building for the benefit of the children of Indian River County. Whereas Quail Valley Charities is poised to engage in a fundraising campaign to fully fund the design and construction of the Indian River County Youth Training Center at Sand Ridge Golf Club. Whereas the location of Indian River County Youth Training Center will be located on the Sand Ridge Golf Club property at the south end of the current driving range. Whereas Indian River County wishes to express its support for the Indian River County Youth Training Center at Sand Ridge Golf Club in this endeavor. Furthermore, Indian River County is eager to coordinate with Quail Valley Charities to develop this center. Now, therefore be it resolved by the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners that the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners offers its pledge of commitment to work in earnest with various charitable organizations led by Quail Valley Charities to design, construct, and donate the building to Indian River County. So far, this resolution was moved for adoption on this day and can be motioned and seconded upon being put to a vote as follows. So with that, I know it's kind of ceremonial because it's under consent, but I'd like to move this forward and make the motion to accept and approve this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Mr. Chair, I'd just ask if you want to ask if there's any public comment on it.
Any public comment revolving this resolution? Hearing none, seeing none. Any further discussion by the commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, that moves us on to the approval of the minutes. Item 6A is the preliminary budget hearing meeting on September 10th, 2025.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I know it's cold outside, but good grief. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 6B is the final budget hearing meeting of September 17th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Item 6C is the regular meeting of October 7th, 2025. We have a motion by Commissioner Fletcher, a second by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. 6D is a special call meeting of October 20th, 2025. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those all in favor? Aye. Item 6E is the regular meeting minutes of October 21st, 2025. A motion by Commissioner Fletcher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. 6F is a special call planning and zoning joint workshop from October 23rd. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams and a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Item 6G is the regular meeting minutes from November 14th, 2025. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams and a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Next is 6H, regular meetings for November 18th, 2025. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams. We have a second by Commissioner Fletcher. They're warming up, ladies and gentlemen. All in favor? Aye. Item 6I is a regular meeting finally from December 9th, 2025. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams and a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Number 7, Commissioners' informational items from staff or commissioners not requiring board action. In your packet, you have item 7A as administrative approval by the administrator. 7B is the first quarter fiscal year 2025-2026 budget report. I'll just add, commissioners, that is a valuable read as we are already in the first quarter of this fiscal. And at the end of this week, we'll be 1/3 of the way with our fiscal budget. Item 7C is timely, very timely. Commissioners, if we can indulge you with the Treasure Coast Sock Drive. I can't think of a better morning that we need warm socks. And with a brief presentation this morning is Lisa McClung. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Lisa McClung, and I live in Indian River County, District 2. You might say, why socks? Well, this morning tells you why socks, but really, truly, wearing socks to bed helps you fall asleep faster, sleep better, by warming your feet, which triggers distal vasodilation, the opening of blood vessels. This lowers your core body temperature and signals sleep. Improving circulation, adjusting heat, it tells your brain that you should go to sleep, and alleviating symptoms of Raynaud's disease, which some people have, which is being very, very cold. So last year, Barry Shapiro, and I'm standing here for him today because he wasn't able to make it. He started the Treasure Coast Sock Drive 8 years ago with expectations of, I think, 1,000 pairs of socks or 300 pairs of socks. They collected 1,000, and they went to 3 charities, so therefore they started up the sock drive. Last year, they collected 17,500 pairs of socks. This is my first year being part of this, and I'm very honored to be here today to talk to you about it. So there are many families being financially squeezed every day, and organizations like the Hope for Family Center and the Hibiscus Children's Center, where in addition to hundreds of pairs of kids' socks we distribute, they are now receiving men's socks for the feet of the fast-growing boys. The Treasure Coast Sock Drive is not a charity. We simply collect socks. We're a small group of friends and neighbors who just want to be kind to those in need. We do not take money. Our boxes for collection are now in over 50 collections from Melbourne to St. Lucie County. There is a box here in the building, and for those who would like to help contribute, you can just drop your socks in there. A couple of events. The Cops and Socks Coffee event will be held on Thursday, February 5th. It's at the Coffee House 1420 downtown. I hope some of you will be able to join us and meet the members of the Vero's finest men and women from Vero Beach Police Department as they pour a cup of joe for everyone who brings in a pair of socks from 8 a.m. to 11. Another event is Saturday, February 7th at 7, music by Professor Pennygoods, and it's the 4th annual Sock Hop taking place at the Walking Tree Brewery. That's going to be an event where you bring in a pair of socks and receive a free beer, enjoy dancing, contest, prizes, and more. So those are the 2 events that we're going to have, and I am going to go ahead and tape those 2 events to the box that's outside, so that in case anyone forgets or they needed to see the dates again, I'll tape them on the sock box outside. Do you all want to hear some of the businesses that are part of in the community? Would you like to hear this? It's not long. Are you good?
In the interest of time, if you could be brief, sure.
Yes?
Go ahead.
So one of the first companies that started is Alexander Insurance. This year signing on Align Aesthetics and Wellness, CJ Cannon, Gordon Chiropractic, Grace Lutheran Church, the Loyal Order of Moose, IRCIG Center, Hometown News, Marine Bank and Trust for all 4 locations, Synovus Bank, all 3 locations, Old Dixie Barber Shop, Mr. Smokes Boutique, Seacoast Bank, 12th Street, Sebastian City Hall, Vero Beach Chamber of Commerce on 14th, Vero Beach City Hall, Dale Sorensen, Coffee House 1420, Sean Ryan Pub, the United Against Poverty, Holy Cross Catholic Church, Engel and Volkers, the Hen House in Sebastian, Pack Mail Beachland, Christie's Gym, Orange Theory, Temple Beth Shalom, Pinch a Penny Pools, Royal Palm Jewels, the Center for Spiritual Care, Gifford Community Center, and there's many more on the website. We especially would like to acknowledge the generous support of ABC Printing, Sorensen Real Estate, Attic 60, and White Glove Moving and Storage who supply the boxes. We deliver men and women's children's socks to over 26 charities listed on our website. I'm here today to help spread the word to as many as we can reach and ask that you help us to do so. For ease and convenience, you can go to the website. It's treasurecoastsocks.com. There's an Amazon link. You just click on the link. It takes you to order a pair of socks, and they go directly to us. Another way is if you're in town and you see a QR code on one of the flyers, you take your phone, go up to the QR code, text you to the website, to the CR code, and you can order them directly through there. Thank you kindly for your time, generosity, and continued support.
Thank you, Lisa. And just for our friends that are in the audience, there is certainly a box right outside. And I think by the end of the week, we will certainly be needing some socks.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Commissioners, it's a time when we have public comment for any agenda-related matters except for public hearings. Do we have any agenda-related matters that you would like to speak of? Seeing none and hearing none, Commissioners, we will move to the consent agenda. What is your flavor? Any items that you'd like to pull, Commissioners, from the consent agenda?
Well, the one item was moved from consent.
Correct.
To
9A was moved. Hearing none, seeing
Chair,
none,
move approval.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 9A. We have a second by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Commissioners, that brings us next to our constitutional officers and government agencies. I see in our audience our supervisor of election, Leslie Swan. Welcome.
Good morning. How's everyone doing today on this cold day?
Yes.
Morning.
Well, we are making preparations for the 2026 gubernatorial election cycle, and the County Canvassing Board is the one that presides over canvassing of the ballots. So the Canvassing Board is made up of the county court judge, the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, and the supervisor of elections. But if the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners is up for election, then we need to appoint someone to be the canvassing board member and also an alternate.
Great. Well, thank you, Mrs. Swan. Commissioner Joe Ehrman has expressed an interest in being the canvassing board substitute.
Okay.
And then in his absence, then the chair will decide on an alternate to the substitute, if that works for you.
Okay, so Commissioner Ehrman will be the canvassing board member.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you'll appoint someone to be the alternate.
And I believe Susan Adams would be the second.
Wonderful. Okay, so what we'll do is we will send you the agenda of the meetings, so you'll know which ones you can attend and which ones Commissioner Adams can attend.
Perfect.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I would just recommend that the board vote on the substitute member, which would be Commissioner Ehrman.
Okay. I can, under these circumstances, I can make that motion.
Mr. Chair, we're appointing,
We never voted to appoint him by the chairman, correct?
so you're appointing Commissioner Ehrman as the canvassing board member,
Correct.
not as a substitute, and Commissioner Adams as the alternate.
Well, technically, according to the statute, the
And
chairman would
We
be,
can't because of.
correct,
elections.
and then the chairman would automatically be the canvassing board person. But if the chairman is seeking reelection, then it goes to what we call a substitute. Is that correct?
Yes, and the statute is really not very consistent. The statute says that the Board of County Commissioners appoint the substitute, and then the chair appoint the alternate. So that's why I just said I recommend that the board take a vote on the substitute member, because the chair is selected an alternate.
Correct.
So that's your appointment. So moved.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Swan.
Happy to do it.
Commissioners, the next item is item 12 under the county administration matters. This is the Fellsmere Water Control District legislation. Hopefully, each of you have been provided some associated backup documents. And I see our Legislative Affairs Liaison, Ms. Kathy Copeland. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Kathy Copeland, Legislative Affairs and Communications Manager. I am here to give you an update, as promised, on the Fellsmere Water Control District legislation. We talked a few weeks ago about the two bills that have been introduced, House Bill 4093 and House Bill 4095. One of them addresses the Fellsmere Water Control District as it currently stands, becoming a dependent district under the Board of County Commissioners governance, and the other one addresses the remainder, the split, the farm side becoming at the Headwaters Water Control District, which would be an independent district. We talked a little bit last week about or 2 weeks ago about what the difference is. I think everyone pretty much understands that, but I just included this, this slide because it will be in the record so people can understand the difference between dependent and independent. The status right now is it was filed on January the 9th. January the 15th, it was referred to the Intergovernmental Committee. It has two referrals. It will go also to the State Affairs Committee and then to the floor. So our first opportunity to submit language for an amendment is now, prior to it being on the calendar at its first stop. We have been working very diligently with Chris Lyon, who is the lobbyist for the Fellsmere joint venture, and we have been in conversation, I explained a couple of weeks ago, with the citizens, and also Mr. Warren Dill had submitted some comments from the city of Fellsmere, and the city manager Armando has also been in communication. I did send them the bill language. It was late last night, so I'm sure they haven't had a chance to actually digest it, but there is time for them to have a comment. We have made some refinements to the issues that were raised by the citizens and by others. I put a list. Do you have that? It should have been emailed to you. Some of the refinements were for emergency operations. In the event of an emergency, the non-compliant district shall be given a reasonable extension of time to fix the problem. We've requested that this addition also means, let me rephrase that. In a case of an emergency, we do not want to wait 30 days to get permission from them to go fix the problem. So that is an outstanding provision that we need to work on. I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's just that there were so many changes that we were making that it didn't get into this, this version. But that is something that we are working to add. We've also identified the designated level of service needs to be tied back to something, either a document or to an historical level. Level of service is a form of art used in defining flood control, but we want to make sure that we understand what is the level of service of this water management system. We added dredging to the maintenance in both bills. We want everything to be reciprocal. So in terms of the dredging, we want to make sure that maintenance includes more than just trimming the trees and pulling the weeds out, that it actually does mean dredging the canals or the ditches. So those are examples of some of the refinements. Some of the other outstanding revisions are, and this is something raised by legal, the Office of Counsel, when we were going over the bills with them, is that we would like to see a provision stating that the dependent Fellsmere Water Control District shall not be liable for any damages, claims, suits, liabilities, losses, expenses that accrued prior to the October 1, 2026, which is when, if passed, this bill would go into effect. We would also like to see canal maintenance and access to the right-of-way, including our ability to access the canals using their right-of-way. So that still needs to be refined, and we are in conversations with them as we speak. We did have this bill reviewed by Kylie in Natural Resources, and we would like to see something in this bill related to BMAPs. Water control districts are required to follow BMPs, but they do not have the same load allocation associated with them that we do. And so we would like to have a conversation with DEP just to make sure that when it becomes under the governance of the county, that the compliance is clear. So we have some language that we would like to offer, and again, Office of Counsel has looked at this. So the request today is for consensus for staff to continue to move forward with the discussions and the refinements, and to acknowledge the strike-all bills that were provided and to be offered as an amendment. Again, we can make further refinements as we go to the next stop. We can make amendments, or amendments can be made on the floor. And then once it passes, we do have the opportunity for one of the legislators to pull the bill. Either Representative Brackett can pull it on the floor, or Senator Grahl can pull it when it comes over to the Senate side. But that's where we are today, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Adams.
So do you just want consensus today, or do you need a motion on the strike-all?
It would be helpful if you all could acknowledge that the strike-all as it is in there now, you're comfortable with it. Again, Danny and I've been working with staff, so the framework we are comfortable with. There are a few refinements we would like to make, but we would like for you to indicate that you're comfortable with the bill to date, understanding that we are still working on it and it is fluid.
So, Mr. Chair, would you like us to express that in a consensus manner, or would you like a motion to?
I think for us to recognize that we're serious about this, a motion would be most appropriate.
Okay, I'll be happy to make a motion of approval for the strike-all amendment with the understanding that we're still working on a framework, and we'll have probably other changes brought back to us in the future.
So second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion between commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And we thank you, Kathy Copeland.
Thank you, I appreciate your support, and I would like again to acknowledge that the Fellsmere Joint Venture and their lobbyist, Chris, they've been very good to work with and amenable to all of our requests, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioners, the next item is departmental matters. We have moved 9A to E, information technology, but at this time, we will be in recess until 9:55. 43, the Board of County Commissioners January 27th meeting is back in session. Next item, Commissioners, is 13E, Departmental Matters, Information Technology. I believe our administrator wants to initiate this conversation. Mr. Administrator.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If you recall, last year, we hired Stonehill, and with them, there was also Red Leaf. And we looked at a couple different, opportunities. They did a plan for us, and they identified some situations where there would be opportunities for the county to be more productive, more efficient, more effective. And one of the things that was identified, in addition to some cybersecurity issues, was an enterprise platform that would provide a more comprehensive, I would say, integrated approach to managing our business processes, our data, and tools across our organization. Currently, we have multiple a large number of single-point solutions that are specialized softwares that target specific problems, but often it leads to fragmentation. And so some of the benefits, and I don't want to go into it because I know they have it, but one, the ability to integrate and reduce data silos, having a centralized management system. It's more secure, the ability to have a more scalable and flexible system where when you read this, it's like we have unlimited number of workflow processes or business processes that we could apply this to. It would obviously improve our efficiency, and I know savings is a factor, or cost is a factor. And one of the things that I would add is just in short order, looking at 13 different applications that we currently use, and there's a multitude of other ones that are being used. It could come out to as we track as our licenses or agreements or expire with these other applications, and then if we were to convert to this SimplyGov platform, once they were all done, just the 13, amounts to about $732,000 a year. So if you think about that, and I know this is a $3 million 5-year, commitment, but with caveat that it does have a termination for convenience. But you can just see there's a savings there, and then we have the ability to do we have the ability to just grow any process that we have and make it digital, make it, automate the process, and it adds a lot of benefit. It lowers the integration and maintenance costs. It provides for greater security. For example, we have, I think it's 4 payment processing systems. So that's 4 opportunities. I think we're familiar with what happened with utilities back in a couple months ago when the system went down and we had to convert to all people coming in and people not able to pay online. And then I guess training and onboarding, because you got one system versus a multitude of systems. So with that, I'm going to introduce, we have Eric Harvey, our IT director, and I'll let him introduce and bring up Jamie Grant, the CEO for Red Leaf, and also Jay Odom. And I think we also have David?
David O'Connell.
Yeah, David O'Connell here.
Our SimplyGov
with
CEO.
SimplyGov.
Good morning, Mr. Harvey.
Good morning, Chairman Lohr, commissioners, staff, team. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this matter. This is and I appreciate County Administrator's comments and input that he's provided because he's nailed it on the head. One of the things I have the pleasure of doing as a new IT director here at Indian River County is to put my feet down, kind of turn over every rock and start heading down a road where we're looking for ways to break silos down, to create more efficiencies and better provide tools to our employees countywide to empower them to make sure that they can have a system they can work with that are solely focused on serving our customers. So with that being said, Stonehill Innovations was an IT assessment firm that we had hired to come in to look at all the areas of IT to see how we could identify areas for improvement and to strengthen our IT posture and cybersecurity hygiene. With that being said, they also brought in Redleaf, who's another consulting firm that we brought in to look at not only that, but transformative, innovative ways to address cybersecurity, but also the county as a whole. And where IT really gets in kind of a bubble and thinks more and less about themselves, Redleaf has helped us to open our mind and think more about us county-wide and how an enterprise-wide solution such as SimplyGov could benefit us all. So I have really gone through, and I'll say it like this, the heartaches, the trials and tribulations of making sure that I, as an IT director, do due diligence coming in for Indian River County to make sure that those rocks that have been overturned get addressed. And when we think more strategically in the direction that we're heading, that we are truly investing in the right tool that's not just about the money, but it's about a bigger picture and what we're going to be doing here for the constituents, is I really had to make sure that I was in line. And going through that process, I asked a lot of questions, specifically as staff, and we bounced ideas off and whatnot. And as I began to break that bubble and think more outside of the box there, and thinking about, yes, I'm an IT director, and we need to be transformative and make sure that we are innovative in our approach and what we're doing, looking and grasping for anything, tool systems to accomplish that is not an easy task. So I just wanted you all to know that I have spent a lot of time, maybe some sleepless nights, really making sure that we are making the right decisions and that when I stand before you, that I'm solid, ultimately, that this is the right direction for us to head from my chair only. So with that being said, I want to bring up Redleaf, Jamie Grant, CEO, also Jay Odman, who's also a VP of customer service. I don't want to mess that up. But also here, we do have Dave O'Connell with SimplyGov. These folks work with other Florida counties that are utilizing this product, and they have begun various initiatives, whether that's through consolidation, replacement, and or enhancements to existing systems to build a more robust and solid, stronger foundation for our systems, if you will. So at this time, gentlemen, if you'll come up, I'll turn it over to Jamie, and he'll share more or less with you from the side of their assessment, what they found, what they learned, and the direction that we should be taking as an approach to technology here in Indian River County.
So if we can just have clarification, the gentlemen that you're bringing up now were hired by us to examine different packages?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we did do that. We did go through the process working with purchasing to make sure that whether we used various state contracts, that we were dotting the i's, crossing the t's, making sure that we were abide by that. But not only that, this firm also focused heavily on cybersecurity initiatives and finding pain points, which we've come a long ways. They haven't touched on, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but as part of Florida Digital Services in the grants for cybersecurity, they played a very instrumental part in that process, making sure that we had major cost savings to the county as well. So me coming into this environment with these type of resources and caliber of folks at the table has been very positive.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate it. My name is Jamie Grant, as Eric and John had mentioned. Recovering lawyer that spent a career in the software industry, spent a decade in the Florida legislature where I overcame the very low bar of being the technology policy guy to help advise on that front. And kind of the combination of that is when the governor asked me to be the state CIO for 3 years. 3 hellacious years, to be candid. And I say that only to say that a lot of the challenges we uncovered are pretty normal. I'd say what's abnormal and was a positive indication from the beginning is the leadership at the time with a vacant IT office at the helm that the county administrator showed in the expectations of kind of how we address some of the realities, but do that in a cost-efficient way. If I were to stress kind of our company's existence started because I had never seen a more tragic form of partnerships than when I was the state CIO and trying to deal with the technology industry and what we had to do in Tallahassee, where no 2 agencies had ever collaborated on cybersecurity in the history of Florida. So where you have one agency that is the enrollment for Medicaid and another agency that is the application of Medicaid, data security between those 2 things, pretty important, non-existent. And so in those 3 years, we had a lot of work that we were proud of, but it was painful. I would, if you'll indulge me, Mr. Chair, for 1 second, just a quick story that kind of set the stage for a lot of the work we do. But our mantra around the state was smaller flags. And that was born out of Jeb Bush as a candidate running for governor, realizing there was no state flag on the old historic Capitol. And he said to his team, if I'm the governor, we're going to have a state flag on the old Capitol. And he got DMS, the Department of Management Services, to say, hey, if we're going to get going, I need to understand like why we don't have a state flag. Law didn't require it. He gets elected, and he says, DMS, go get me a state flag. DMS reports back to him and says, sir, good news and bad news. The dome on the old historic Capitol cannot support a larger pole, and the pole cannot support a third flag. That's the bad news. The good news is we've commissioned architects. We've spent about $1.5 million, and in 3 years we can, excuse me, I have that backwards, $3.5 million. In about 1.5 years, we can get a reinforced dome, a larger pole, and have your flags. Finally, a 20-year-old kind of interim staffer says, sir, it seems to me that if we use smaller flags, we could have it fixed next week. That's really what we try and do. So our company, when we come in, we serve as an agent for our customers. We do work around the country with states and localities where we negotiate on your behalf. We don't think you should have to deal with the onslaught of sellers without some level of documenting what are the requirements, what are the budget, what are we trying to do. When we came in, two very glaring findings. Number one, data security and cybersecurity. The good news, we had established a grant program at the state level that was not to just ship dollars. We spent a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of work trying to build partnerships around the state. We had 334 municipalities opt in to receive those benefits from the state directly. And when we got here, found out that the county had not enrolled in that. And so Rachel and the team up there quickly engaged. We helped. Jay Odom, one of my co-founders, comes out of the software space, and we did a lot of business requirements, vendor vetting, help Rachel and team identify which solutions would be deployed there. Those are solutions that cost the county no money currently. And when we talk about some of the advocacy in Tallahassee, we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that program survives and continues funding, which it has kind of to date. They're waiting on this year's funding. But that was a way to solve some cybersecurity vulnerabilities that are pretty significant pretty quickly and without coming to the commission saying, hey, we need several $100,000. The second thing we noticed, and this is a very common trend, is that IT around the country has a tendency to show up at boards like this or in the legislature and say, we need a thing to do something, rather than showing up and saying, what does the customer need and what does our staff need and what does that solution look like inside of funding? And so we try really hard to shift the narrative from projects to enterprise platforms. Projects look like multiple departments all paying for electronic signature licenses that are redundant and duplicative, and you're wasting money. A platform approach says, hey, I need every single department to be able to ingest data from constituents or from different departments. I need to be able to route that information efficiently, ideally getting off paper and stopping email as kind of the operational protocol for government, and then being able to route that all the way through the different workflows, even documenting the signature or capturing payments in a really efficient way. And so when we started talking kind of what maybe would get routed up as IT operations, we try very hard to say, guys, we need to be talking about business operations. We need to understand what the departments need. We need to understand what the fingers on the keyboard that are serving your constituents need. We need to understand what you need. And so I would maybe strongly encourage a shift away from thinking about IT as a back office thing that gets new computers and new whiz bangs going, and instead thinking about it of how can we drive costs down and impact up. That's really what we've tried to do here. I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chair. I can continue going. I don't want to just lecture at you. I wanted to just kind of set the stage for how we got here and what we do and see if there's any questions, but encourage y'all maybe to interrupt me, ask questions, or I could keep going.
I certainly appreciate it. Commissioners, any comments for the gentleman?
Perfect. All right. Well, then I'll kind of, yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you had a question. I apologize.
I don't have a question right now.
So with that framework, that was kind of where we started looking. There's very clearly a need to give, I would suggest, I hate to use the term dashboard, but think of it as a source of truth In 10 years in the legislature begging and 3 years as the state CIO, I cannot stand before you and tell you what the state spends on software. To me, that's malpractice. When you have different departments buying different things, I would stress that if I'm back here again, I would like to be able to stand in front of you and say, this is what your portfolio looks like. This is what you're spending. This is where you're spending. This is when it renews. And here's the savings that you were able to achieve year over year. In order to do that, and I think each of you in your respective businesses can appreciate the concept of an asset inventory. So, sir, whether that's as a former sheriff and you think about the assets inside the sheriff's office, it's no different in technology. It's just different types of assets. One is being able to get that asset inventory in place to give you a clear look at, am I actually making an investment that's delivering impact, or am I just spending more money? Where we started with the IT operations, you may have seen, or some folks have seen kind of the term ITSM, that stands for IT Service Management. That is just an important baseline fundamental. But we explored everything. When I was the state CIO, we deployed ServiceNow in the middle of Hurricane Ian. We had the largest Starlink deployment in the history of SpaceX outside Ukraine. We launched a missing persons portal. We were ingesting AI data to locate folks. We were giving first responders satellite coverage as part of urban search and rescue. We also had unlimited resources. That's not the case here. And so if we were to go down the path of kind of your traditional IT service management, and deploy something like a ServiceNow that could make sense in a county of this size at some point, that's $1.5 million investment pretty quickly out of the gate, and it's not going to do anything to empower the departments or the constituents in a noticeable way to get going. Instead, we looked at it and said, hey, if we can start automating workflows, what would that look like? And that's where the deep dive on SimplyGov truly came in. We pressure tested them pretty hard and said, hey, you claim to be a no-code, low-code platform. We want to see that in action. We want to know where you're doing other work, and we want to write those requirements up to see how that kind of goes. And it's been about a year-long process of collaboration around a number of different solutions to say, okay, if I'm going to put my name on it and stand in front of this board and say this is the direction I think things should go, what does that look like? And I need to be able to do that with confidence. That's where this kind of started. And so as we continued down that path, we realized that there was a way to truly adopt this as a platform that could do everything from constituent services, could support your office, could support utilities, could capture payments, effectively an unlimited scope, to go back to what the county administrator had said previously, impact across every single department and capabilities to make sure that stuff works together and in a way that would deliver immediate savings quickly. We then started kind of the negotiation process. In the negotiation process, SimplyGov prices 3 ways. They have projects. Projects would be kind of a single project, domestic violence injunction, or hey, the county planning agenda. That's obviously their smallest license, limited to kind of a project. The next step up is a program or a department. That would be like HR or procurement or utilities. And then allowing workflows inside that department. And then they have their enterprise license, which is the applications across the entire department, unlimited workflows. What became pretty clear, and I'll take ownership and confess on this, for me to stand at this podium typically in this situation, I should have led to meet with each one of you and get questions and make sure that we were briefing on that, and just kind of through the process that didn't happen, and that's on me. That said, it became very clear that there were workflows coming from across the departments as some of the kind of power users and champions, Scott in the IT office, Scott Johnson, Natalie Novak, supporting Eric's efforts to say, okay, where are the different places that we could provide an impact? And then SimplyGov in the negotiation process offered to provide the enterprise license at the cost of a program, which is about an 88% discount off of the NASPO pricing. NASPO is the National Association of State Procurement Officers, for folks who are not familiar. And then the state of Florida has a participating addendum through DMS with NASPO. So it's, quite frankly, a more efficient process often than state term contract, because it gives you bigger access and better negotiation tactics. And then maybe the one last thing to kind of land, and happy to take any questions. the reason for a 5-year term paid annually with terms of convenience. When we come into the negotiation phase, we're looking at all the deal levers to try and drive value. In some situations, somebody says, hey, we have so much familiarity with, so much comfort with this, we want a 5-year deal. We'll waive terms of convenience, we'll waive subject to appropriation language, in which case the price will go down, right? Because the vendor that we're negotiating with has some level of assurance. The next step down is, hey, a 5-year term that is cancelable annually with terms of convenience and subject to appropriation language and those things. However, what that does is a couple things. It locks in discounts and caps. So vendor lock-in is a major problem in this space around the country. We want to make sure that we protect our clients from vendor lock-in and give freedom and flexibility, and simultaneously protect from, you got pricing for 1 year, and now in year 2, it goes through the roof, and you're kind of stuck. So a 5-year term that is paid annually and has terms of convenience still gives the county a significant discount. It also gives the protection against a vendor showing up the next year and saying, hey, we gave you an 88% discount in year 1, but now you're going to pay a 300% increase in year 2. So obviously happy to take any questions. I know that's a lot. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this. And like I said, happy to field any questions.
Well, I do appreciate that. And Commissioners, as you know, this was presented, it was on our agenda November 24th of last year. And to be quite frank with you, I had some reservations, and in concert with the administrator, we did not hear this particular item on the 24th. Fast forward, with the particular unknown economic climate in the state, and the gentleman certainly knows, I'm surprised after 10 years in the legislature and 3 years as a consultant that he's got a full head of hair.
It's changing rapidly, sir.
So for that, we thank him. So, Commissioners, hopefully you've had an opportunity to speak with the administrator on this. One thing that we have to look at, first, I tasked the administrator yesterday with some of the compatible agencies that happen to use this particular program. And one thing that I shared with him yesterday was my primary concern is what we have going on in building and permitting. Let's resolve that before we dive into something else related to all of the things that we need. We, as commissioners, obviously are commissioned with respect to policy and budget. And sometimes budget outweighs policy. Not always, but sometimes. So with that, we must be considerate of what we triage. Most recently, Commissioners, I have been told that SimplyGov perhaps has an arm, if you will, that would help not only in our permitting, but in our budgeting. As many of you know, we have had our professional staff examining options to include MGO and others in the last six or 7 months. And I feel confident to say that each of us have had some amount of frustration with that particular endeavor. So I would like to ask the administrator a few questions. One being, if we look, Commissioners, at, let's call it what it is. This is $2.9 million over 5 years spread out. We understand that. We already know that there's about 13 different platforms that are costing us a significant amount of money. This could be, in fact, an opportunity if the other component that is being investigated through the permitting and the planning area, I don't want to say consolidate because I'm not a tech guy, but this could be one of the items that we're commissioned to examine, i.e. The budget. And it could make us more efficient, and it could, in the long run, save us dollars. So, Mr. Administrator, if you could kind of recap our conversation from this morning, sir.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Jamie and Jay with Red Leaf. I was early on led to believe that that this was not a potential solution for that, issue. And we had a long conversation yesterday afternoon, because I expressed, well, there's three programs. There's our Tyler, which is our ERP, and then there's ArcGIS, which is completely outside of this, but they kind of corner the market. And then I brought up, I said, the other one that we're having an issue with is an integrated development review process. And I expressed, I thought that this program, because it's a workflow, it's a process. It goes from here to here to here to here to here. And if somebody was sitting in that chair, then the application goes to that person, then goes to the next person, go to the next person. And we, as we discussed it, they're like, we have the ability to do that. And so with that conversation, I felt it, appropriate to share that with you, that this could be the solution, and we would be able to, I go back to that 4 payment processors, that we're paying, different rates for each of those payment processing software, or agreements that we have. And so the idea is to come up with a unified, system that will work across the entire organization. And if this will help us with both planning, literally taking raw land all the way through the process of the future land use, the zoning, the site plan, the building permit, and then getting to the code enforcement component, and you have all that, and contractor licensing, having one program or one process that will do that, that's what we need. And then you get the event, and there's a significant cost to that. We know that. I think Eric, remind me, I want to say, was it $500,000 or $250,000 initially, then $200,000 a year? That wasn't even included in, the MGO amount of $165,000, that we're paying right now. It was included in that amount for 732. But you're looking at about savings just from the 13 applications, and we know there's more, where you would save as we sunset or phase out those applications and build that process and build to our needs, not fitting that round peg in this square hole, because the off-the-shelf box product, we're making it work for us. This now becomes, we design, develop, create the system for us, with the same platform that everybody would be using across the county.
Right, and I appreciate that. When you talk about the sunsetting, so commissioners, the administrator mentioned something about the $700 that we're spending annually. When those 13 platforms begin to sunset, not until then would you reap the savings. Simultaneously, would this be consistent with our goals and objectives and our strategic plan?
Oh, this would definitely, because under the governance component about trying to become more efficient, more effective, increase productivity, it also promotes a more safer environment from a cybersecurity standpoint. And then you have lesser costs when it comes to training, because you have one platform. There are service hours that they will provide to help us get up and going. And, but then after that, our departments are now in control. So once, and we've already asked the departments, identify 1-2 pain points. Let's just take the travel. How many times, I think you all have experienced the travel process and the forms that we have to fill out. That could be automated and could be streamlined, to reduce all the paper and to reduce the signatures and to reduce, so there's so many opportunities there. And in human services, you have, the case management, the applicant intake, and you can see how you're just looking at that, fleet, they use faster. We have, I think, a work order system with our building and facility services. All these could come under the umbrella of SimplyGov, and we would have one, integrated system that would enable us to. So, and I think one of the things that, when we talked yesterday, is one of the first steps we would do is create that, for lack of a better, a database, that inventory, and start tracking every one of these, contracts. We've already asked purchasing to pull them, so we can identify when they're up, what's the provisions in each of them? Is there a term for convenience where we could cancel them and, accelerate the development of maybe one or another, sooner? But ultimately, yes, down the line, we would, there's a couple that we're already looking at doing. I mean, there's some that we're looking at doing. I mean, I can point to 3 or 4 that we're looking at doing. The ITSM, that's something that's $200,000 right there.
Okay, thank you. Haven't seen you so excited in months.
But I mean, it came with that innovation productivity background, and this is something that will really drive our organization. And I think what's important for the commission, that's critical, not just the efficiencies that are gained, but the ability to report back data. And you all, I mean, Jamie mentioned having a dashboard, the ability to create dashboards and do things so we can track, our productivity, track our performance. I think that's critical today, in today's day and age. And Jamie can comment on that in a little bit further.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I love the question and the direction. You're really pointing at I think a paradigm shift that is really important for organizations that want to mitigate. I think back to, you mentioned the full head of hair, and I appreciate that your vision's lacking.
Thank you.
But the old adage of insurance companies after Hurricane Andrew that said we can insure against hail and storm and hurricanes, but there's no way to insure against the Florida legislature. Right. And if you think about the economic foundation and your critical role to shepherd this county, the paradigm shift you're describing is I believe, critical. In the today or the status quo, a lot of technology shops say, hey, I need ServiceNow, I need Salesforce. They let the platform drive, and that could be all the way down to a licensing platform. What those typically state agencies are struggling with is finding talent to manage the ServiceNow environment or the Salesforce environment post-go live. It's super expensive. They are very powerful platforms, but they are going to be people dependent to do that. Our goal in going through this process and making this recommendation is that we, instead of empowering the technology, we empower the business. Through our discovery with SimplyGov, there are numerous state agencies around the country that have non-technical, in one case a lawyer, who's actually deploying workflows that are really significant in that state. The dependency against needing the technical talent is critical. Secondly, the ability for, as the county administrator was laying out in your questions, how do we empower the use case rather than kind of the engineering pride that happens a lot of times when software companies come in here and they say, we'll sell you on a per license basis or a per transaction basis. They get you hooked, and then you're stuck, and then you've either got to hire the talent or you've got to spend a lot of money on implementation services to be an outsourced vendor. And then I think the second thing I would stress that I would look at holistically when we talk about kind of insuring against Tallahassee is helping put the county in a position where new hires are not the need. New hires are a lot more expensive than automated workflows, where we have the power users and the champions and the groups that are being built to deploy automations. You put yourself in a situation where you're no longer dependent on if this one person leaves, we're up a creek and we have to go find somebody else that can do this thing. Instead, we've documented the workflow. And to the county administrator's kind of comments, starting with new purchases, saying, wait a minute, we have a platform that can automate workflows. It can stand up a digital process to eliminate a paper-based process that is costing us a lot of money and that is delaying services to the constituents. It can automate the routing to do these things to make us much more efficient so that we're spending less dollars per transaction. And that's one thing I would kind of scream about technology in the public sector, is that it has been driven by the large systems integrators that are billing you on time and materials, how many hours and how many licenses can they sell you, rather than saying how many workflows can we complete for you. And that's what we're trying to help you drive.
I appreciate that. Mr. Administrator, we spoke a couple meetings ago about Vision 2026. We talked about AI components. I haven't read anything in the backup about Simply Gov's AI components?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, and I know Mr. O'Connell's here, he can discuss that, but there is, yeah, as a matter of fact, we had a conversation yesterday about constituent tracking. You know, right now, everybody's can come in, they go on the email, and they just, you know, they sometimes add all of you, but they could just be one box, add it, and AI can be integrated to determine, oh, well, this is Public Works, you know, and it goes to the appropriate department, and notification to the other people, but now you know it's going right immediately to the person or to the department that is doing it. But there are other applications where AI can come into play, and so
the proposal with the retention or replacement of MGO, those dollars, do we have an idea of what that work group was looking at with respect to those dollars? Because what I'm hearing today is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Simply Gov can do that as well for equal price.
well, it's actually what you have in front of you, that 5-year, you know, the 5-year deal, like for $2.9 million. If you, adding the whole workflow process for an integrated land development review system, there is no price because it's built into this. That we get unlimited workflow and automated processing through this contract. There's no limitation, so we're not going out and spending money on another system because we have the ability to do it within this existing contract.
And just for clarification, Simply Gov was not included in that initial exercise.
It's largely because they were not a permitting and development software, but it all comes down to, it's a process, it's a workflow. You chart the workflow, goes here, goes here, goes here, and then it's all automation.
And the discussion that we had, Mr. Administrator, yesterday about, we're hypothetically, if we're 2 years into this process with Simply Gov, and the relationship sours or blossoms, who knows? How safe and comfortable are we with that information that the county possesses?
We are confident that, one, it's a requirement, but we retain the data. We retain the data. It's our data, and we retain the data. And I think statutorily, that's a requirement too, by the way.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
John, Jamie, ever since 2020, when I started here, it's always been the issue of permitting, like you referenced in the building department, permitting, making it more timely, making it more efficient, user-friendly on not just our side, but on the customer side. Can you enlighten me to say if we do this, that this is going to be much better, more efficient for everybody?
Well, I could say yes, because right now, MGO only does building and permitting.
Correct.
It's on the front end where you have a raw piece of land that somebody comes in, they apply for, you know, well, I need to change the future land use, and you change the zoning, you create that case, and you could have it where it follows it through, then they do a site plan, then land development has to review it in Public Works, utilities has to review it, planning and development has to review it, natural resources has to review it, sometimes the Department of Health. And what's happening now, it's you know, they're not getting it through MGO, because MGO is building and permitting only. We're trying to look at a holistic system or solution to that, to even after the project's done, you've got code enforcement or contractor licensing that has access to all the data and everything that happened preceding that, and now it's all there.
Because that was always the problem, that was supposed to be, instead of taking blueprints like it was and going from department to department, MGO was supposed to, everybody could see it at the same time. I think it tried to get there. I don't know if it was successful, but we're still getting issues. People are getting used to it, but, I can get used to using an old calculator too, with tape on it, or a typewriter if I had. So I just want to make sure that we're being prudent in our spending, but we're being more efficient, making the journey for the customer and our people in all our departments easier to travel.
If I may, Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. It's a fantastic question, and it's part of maybe that paradigm shift I didn't do a great job explaining. But if I went to kind of the beginning of my career in the software industry, we would develop a roadmap. We would guess with everything we knew in the market of what somebody would want to buy, and then our engineers would go put that together in a sprint, and we would confirm that it works, and then we would go take it out. When you have people coming to you, whether it's licensing or permitting or any other specified government software that is kind of in that software as a service or SaaS world, they're effectively bringing you one solution for all jurisdictions. So the way they created that product is to say, building and permitting looks like this, and we're going to have some flexibility in it, but now we're going to go to every county and we're going to say, buy our permitting and licensing software, and it's going to be very rigid. There's going to be rules around what can be done. But in that kind of status quo, you are stuck to what the software creator created. What we've been trying to drive at is we think this county should be empowered to say, this is what we need the software to do. Mr. Chair, to your question about AI, there are significant AI implications that are positive in this direction. Step one is we got to get our data together. So in the same way that there's not one single database to tell you all of the software spend across all the departments, there's not going to be one database to say this is where all the information is around licensing and permitting. You would have two distinct paths to go down that are very different. One is we're going to go look for a licensing and permitting software that somebody created specifically for that use case, and there's going to be lots of rules and limitations around it. When we say a no-code, low-code platform, and when the county administrator defines kind of workflow automation, it truly is as simple as sitting down with the program owners to say, meet my constituent Johnny. Johnny has raw land. Johnny needs to try and turn that raw land into the thing he wants to build. And you come back to this user story, as that's called, Johnny, and you say, Johnny's going to submit this form. Okay, let's see that form. Let's digitize that form and make sure that there is an easy way for him to submit that. The same way if he mailed it in, the person that receives it needs to have an easy way to turn that into digital. Whether that's uploading a PDF into this particular platform that then converts it to data, we're making the data useful no matter how it comes in. Then we're playing what I call the now what, then what game. It needs to go here based on conditional logic or there. If it's sufficient, you mentioned the blueprints kind of going around. If the blueprint is sufficient, then it moves to this person or department. I would argue that the executives need to have insight into the performance at both a team and personal level to see where the blueprint's being stuck, or that your office fielding a complaint from a constituent should be able to know this has been submitted, this is where it's been routed, this is where the holdup, and now my aide or assistant can go chase that down and give my constituent an answer. Or in a better situation, which is what we're trying to drive for, your constituent can actually see where it is, and now we've offloaded a call to your office that at scale is a plague on public sector service, just the call center volume and constituent issues that are so avoidable if we could just provide transparency and accountability around where that particular case is, whether it's something like building and permitting or utilities or any other workflow. If we just take that user story of Johnny and say, this is what a successful transaction looks like, and here's the logic that's built into it, and now deploy that in a week or two, modify it as we learn more, you've developed a situation where you're getting at exactly what you were asking. That's not going to happen if each department goes out and buys their special little thing that is this particular thing for that department. And then the last thing I did want to kind of close the loop on, if I may, the county administrator mentioned cybersecurity impacts here. And if you were to go do research on SimplyGov or IT service management, you're not going to see them typically advertise cybersecurity because there's a difference between a solution that is doing the detecting and response on cybersecurity versus your threat landscape. And the example I always used, especially in cybersecurity at the state level, where we did a lot of work with law enforcement, is if you think about securing physical premises, every single application you have, software application, is a different door or window into your home. And the more doors and windows we have, the more vulnerabilities that the bad guys can come in. The goal here, when we talk about the cybersecurity impact, is to both shrink the landscape from time and money, but also shrink the landscape when it comes to threat actors. And if I were to stress maybe the negative on the AI front in general, what AI has allowed the threat actors to do, when I was the state CIO responsible for cybersecurity as part of my job, it was largely the Russians and the Chinese and cyber gangs that we had to deal with. Now we have to deal with vulnerabilities that are drummed up in Gemini or Grok or ChatGPT that makes an individual actor look like a nation state by sophistication. The more doors and the more windows we have out there, the more we're looking to be shut down on ransomware that renders the entire operation to paper. So the goal here is to balance innovation and efficiency and the customer experience and empower the workforce while simultaneously significantly mitigating some of the cybersecurity vulnerabilities when all of these different doors and windows are out there.
Mr. Herman? Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, was this one of the programs that the permitting group looked at? Is that?
We didn't
No,
know about it.
because they looked at permitting programs
Okay.
versus an enterprise platform.
Madam, if I may, great example of where IT gets stuck in a bubble. And one of the things we want to evangelize to IT leaders is you've got to be sitting at the business table, understanding the story of Johnny, the constituent that's coming in, and Sally, the program owner that is responsible for that thing. You have to have the trust across the organization that instead of IT showing up and say, we want to buy this thing for this thing, showing up and saying, what do you need us to support? I have been pretty vocal about this publicly, but if the CIO population around the country doesn't start changing the behavior to get away from technology and into the business, they're gonna render themselves irrelevant. We didn't know that that was even a thing happening in another department while we were trying to do kind of the vetting. It did come up. Natalie Novak has led a lot around bringing groups together. And that's when it kind of came up. And I think candidly why there was some confusion around there's maybe a difference between have we explored SimplyGov's ability to solve our licensing and permitting MGO challenge versus can it? And I think the fact that it might not have been as part of the requirements documentation that Jay was leading for us and I was working in is maybe where some of that confusion came up.
So I think, Commissioner Adams, what you're saying is it appears that we have dedicated a lot of time and money and our personnel resources and looking at different permitting and planning software, and now all of a sudden SimplyGov arrives, and what do? Do we discount all of that work and all of the meetings that we've had with our stakeholders? And I think we've had several of those meetings with our stakeholders. So, one question would be, I don't want to jump up and say, wow, we found the silver bullet here, but the fact is, do we know that SimplyGov is something, and by the way, where was it when we were doing all this other looking around? So the question is, what do we do with those work groups and all the other things that we've looked at to enhance and or replace MGO? All of a sudden, we're just going to put all that stuff aside and say, hey, SimplyGov's the answer. And you're doing a very convincing job, so keep going.
If I was your agent in that situation, I believe optionality is one of the most valuable things for an operation. I'll take it to the state level to give you a parallel for a second, but in a lot of situations, states have hired Accenture or Deloitte to run what probably should be a $5 million project, turns into a $500 million project, and things never go live. But as part of that, the state has made a tremendous investment into platforms like ServiceNow or Salesforce that I mentioned. I would strongly encourage, both for culture, but also just solution design. These two things could run in parallel, and when I say these two things, I think it would be less than ideal to show up and tell a working group that has been exploring things, by the way, that work was for nothing, and then we're going here. As we did kind of the pressure testing on SimplyGov, there are a lot of scenarios at like a large state agency enterprise level where SimplyGov could replace the ServiceNow or Salesforce investment, but that would put that agency head or that governor's office in the position of saying, hey, we're going to rip this thing out and bring up some challenges. In the alternative, SimplyGov can serve as the front door to stand on top of that thing. So if I was looking at the kind of both economic and cultural or operational impact, what I would encourage as part of that analysis on the permitting side is to say, hey, I want to know if SimplyGov could do this end to end. That's one option for you, and I would encourage you to go down that path. Separate and apart from that, and I don't want to get overly technical, SimplyGov has about 800 APIs out of the box. Those are tools that integrate different platforms and can send data different ways. And so where states have kind of that nasty challenge on the Salesforce or ServiceNow experience, sometimes SimplyGov is just coming in to stand as the data ingestion layer to then route to make ServiceNow and Salesforce work a little bit better. Same kind of thing could happen here, and if we were to look at the economic impact, we would say, hey, we might need to spend less. So I believe one of the solutions being looked at, you're going to spend a couple $100,000 to implement that solution if you moved away from MGO. SimplyGov economic impact there may just mitigate the amount of implementation that needs to be done, because you could stack those two platforms together to run well if that department said, hey, at the end of the day, I really want to have this specific license and permitting application, but I want it to work better, and I want it to have more flexibility. SimplyGov could be applied at no additional cost to you on that, and you have that choice. But again, you could also pressure test down and say, do I need to have the duplicative spend? That's the kind of executive business decision that I would hope this board is empowered with, to say, we have track A and track B. Here's the financial and operational impact of both, and then allow you to do your job duly elected.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, if we could bring this in for a landing, what I would suggest is, we've had a lot of information given to us this morning, some relatively new, i.e. within the last 2 or 3 days. When we think about spending these types of dollars, I have questions that perhaps could be answered in the next 2 weeks, to include when we phase out some of the 13 or so platforms, those dollar amounts, when they would sunset versus when our proposed SimplyGov would kick off, and ultimately dumb it down, so to speak, on what ultimately the savings would be and the efficiency would be. That would be my suggestion, Commissioners. I don't think we're in a position to commit to a contract this morning. You may, that's up to you. I don't personally feel committed to that. I think we should, I think 2 to 3 weeks, we should be able to have in black and white what, in fact, we would save and be, in fact, more efficient at. Your comments?
It's fine with me to get the additional information.
I think so.
Commissioner Flusher.
Well put, Mr. Chair. I do believe we need, well, you deserve it.
Thank you.
We do need additional information. We did hear a lot. I'd buy stock in your delivery, by the way. But with that, excuse me?
He's from Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, yeah.
Respectfully, sir, I don't want to argue with the chair, but I am not from Tallahassee. I traveled there.
You spent enough time there, apparently.
I survived and got out.
Good job.
Well, good things happen from the north, I guess.
Well.
All right. Well, 2,963,275. That's locked in, right? No, it's not. There may be more.
If I may, Mr. Chair, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is the 5-year amount if you renewed every single year. What we did in negotiating it was saying, if you went to the company and said, we want a 1-year agreement, it would be a lot more expensive on a one-year basis because they're looking at it going, we don't know if there's any potential other than going. So when the county administrator talks about terms of convenience or subject to appropriation, that is standard language in most procurement departments and purchasing departments around the country. It is also included in the NASPO participating addendum that the Department of Management Services signed. So unless you negotiated differently, and we see that sometimes, to get a much better price where somebody says, hey, I need this, and I know I'm committed to this, that would actually be locked in. This is not locked in. This is a 5-year term, but each year is paid annually. The termination for convenience, the distinction there between for cause and for convenience. For cause would be a legal term that says the contract will define what cause means, and if we, the county, wanted to terminate, we would have to show and prove cause to get out of the contract. Termination for convenience means you could wake up mad one morning and just say, fire them, and you have no legal requirement beyond what you paid for that year. The reason we believe in, and going through the process and working through to say, how do we balance price and protection? Protection looks like terms for convenience or subject to appropriation. Subject to appropriation means this board could say, we're not going to fund it, and that's the way in year 2 that it does not get funded. So the only thing you would be locked in on, so to speak, is in your annual budgeting process, are we going to pay for this next year of 5? So year 1, you would pay a reduced amount that fits inside existing budget needs, working with the county administrator to figure out what that could look like. Across the entire 5 years, if this board renewed, then the value would be 2.9, but you would have to actually issue a new renewal every year. And the reason for the 5-year term, I'll go back to something I said earlier, if I may, Mr. Commissioner. There are lots of uncertain costs in the marketplace with what's happening on the data center side, the AI side, and what software is going to cost. There are things that will drive software costs up. There are things like AI that should drive it down some. The 5-year term protects exactly what your renewal amount would be. So if we had a 1-year term in the alternative and just had protection and said that year 1 was $450,000 ballpark, and then in year 2, the vendor shows up and says, year 2 is going to be $2 million. Gotcha. Now, we as a county are in a very thick spot because we've been deploying workflows on this, and we certainly have no expectation for a vendor that we pressure test to do that. But that's the protection of the 5-year term, is to say this is what each annual year will cost, and then the other thing we negotiated in there is a ceiling on what a renewal would cost beyond the 5 years. Zach Portwood in your IT office was very keen to go, hey guys, like what would happen on the renewal? So those caps are negotiated in, but that's why I say it's not a fixed commitment of $2.9 million.
Mr. Chair, can I just comment? We did pull all that documentation and we confirmed that. We've looked at the contract language.
Right, and I appreciate that. We do know that in the budget formulation of last year, IT does in fact have this included. And we also understand that IT is an internal service fund. Just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Once again, I appreciate the fact that would not be taking action today.
In other words, we're a few gigabytes short.
Yeah, and, you know, maybe we need one of those bigger chips. I just, $3 million. This comes at a time when we're looking at, again, one of my colleagues pointed out that we're still having some challenges with MGO. I don't think they went away, and that was a year after a solid year of massaging with a presence from the individual in the building. It just, you pointed out something. You said in a perfect world it would have been better if we had all met, maybe had some, I don't know, a test drive, a presentation, to make a decision for $3 million during a year where we had to cut nearly $1 million from our budget to satisfy or to come closer to satisfaction for the sheriff's budget request. It's been a challenge. $3 million is, we're not shopping for a refrigerator. I think that we should have a little more time to understand, to see more examples, to see how this is going to integrate totally, to maybe to repair some of what has happened with MGO. I think that, again, nice presentation, but I think we still have some unanswered questions.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, number one. What I would stress, and I want to make sure, and at the risk, my job is not to convince you to say yes, right?
Wow.
Well, my job is to make sure that I'm giving you the information of what our findings have been and the work we've done. One thing I do want to just kind of level set, my first session in Tallahassee was in the middle of the great financial crisis. I fortunately only lived through 2 or 3 budgets where we were cutting to the bone. I want to make clear, and it's one of the challenges for me as the CEO of a company that plays in the public sector, my philosophy is very public. There's a 10-year voting record. I want to make sure that we acknowledge from our seat that when we serve as an agent, we see that as stewardship, and we need to be able to make the case to you, because on one side, there is the dollar amount spent. The other side of the equation, and this is where I think sometimes just getting the information and being able to communicate that information, the cost of not doing something will also have a significant economic cost. If I were to put myself in your shoes or my old shoes as an appropriator, I wanted to know what the cost of the investment was going to be. I wanted to understand what the cost of doing nothing would be. In this case, there are going to be some of the FTE or employment dollars that are there, and simultaneously the existing spend and the future spends. My job is not to get you to say yes. My job is to paint a picture for you that says this is why we've made the recommendation, and both invite and expect you to pressure test that to go, okay, what's behind that?
But again, your job is to show us value.
Yes.
Show us viability.
Yes, sir.
Sustainability.
Yes, sir.
So I guess it is to sell it. Yeah, let's use it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here today.
I guess when I say when we make a recommendation, our job is to stand behind it. So I totally agree. I just wanted to make sure I delineate between our job is to make you feel comfortable with your decision. And if we make a recommendation, we want to be able to.
And our job as representatives, it needs to be that we're good stewards of the taxpayer dollar.
Yes, sir.
To show efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, and to show that this is addressing a need, not a want. This is addressing a concern that will make us a better place operationally and provide better communication. That's what we need to hear and know. And again, then we have to lay that in the balance of the decision of the investment, the dollars.
We appreciate that. Commissioners, if we could agree to ask Eric and perhaps John to bring this back February, is it the 8th? Is that too soon? Is that the next meeting date?
I think it is the next
10th, maybe?
10th.
And I think, Eric, you have hopefully clear direction on what we expect to see so we can make a decision.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions?
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you all.
Hearing none, we'll be in recess until 11:05. It is 11:05 on January the 27th, 2026. Board of County Commission meeting will resume. Next is 13I Commissioners for Departmental Matters, Planning and Development Services. Specifically under 13I1, consideration of the Indian River County Economic Development Strategic Action Plan. I see Mr. Sweeney, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a couple folks. You all should already know Doug Dombrowski, our Economic Development Manager. We also have Jeff Marcel with TIP Strategies. He's going to be doing most of the presentation. And then Deputy County Attorney Susan Prado does want to mention a few items right after Jeff's presentation. And last but not least, Lance Lunsford, who is our newly elected chairman of the Economic Development Council, may also say a few words. But with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he's got a quick PowerPoint for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. It's good to see you all again. I'm Jeff Marcel. I'm a senior partner with TIP Strategies. I apologize, I have a little bit of a hoarse throat. I had a cold last week, but I'm going to try to do this without having a throat lozenge so I don't cough into the microphone. But thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I've been very excited about this presentation, and I want to make sure that we have the presentation up. Okay. There we are. Let me share with you what I'd like to cover today. First, I want to give you an overview of the planning process that's taken place over this past year. A tremendous amount of work has been done by people from all across the county, and I want to make sure to acknowledge that and recognize that, and make sure you have a sense about the work that has been put into this strategic plan. I know you all have had the plan and had an opportunity to take a look at it, but I'm going to give you a high-level overview of what's included in the plan. And then I certainly will be available for questions, and I know that we have some of our Economic Development Council members here as well, and I'm sure that they can take questions as well, and as well as the county staff. But with that, let me dive in. I did want to just give you a quick reminder about who we are as the consultant that has been tasked to help facilitate this plan. My company is a 30-year-old economic development and workforce development strategic planning firm. We've worked during that 30-year history. We've worked in over 425 communities all across the country, a lot of communities in the state of Florida. I will tell you, it has been an absolute pleasure to have a chance to work in Indian River County, to get a chance to know the people, the leadership here, and get very familiar. All you had to do this morning was listen to some of the items on your early agenda to appreciate just what an amazing community this is. And so it's been a true pleasure. And I will tell you, as a company, that all we do is do economic analysis and help facilitate economic development strategic plans. This has been a pleasure and a joy to work with this community. So that's a little bit about us. I did want to give you a project overview right out of the gate and just share with you the timeline, because an enormous amount of work has been done. This has been a 12-month project. We started back in January of 2025, and as you can see, all of the tasks and milestones that have been identified here. I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, this has been a very comprehensive strategic planning process. During this discovery phase, this is where we spent an enormous amount of time speaking with people in the community, listening and learning from residents in Indian River County to understand what they want to see and what they care about related to the economy. We also pulled a lot of data during this time period as well. That understanding the quantitative and qualitative took us to the opportunity phase of the project. This is where we, in conjunction with the Economic Development Council and the staff at the county, started to look at strategies and actions that would address the things that we learned, the opportunities that we learned about during that discovery phase. And then that took us to the implementation phase of the project, where we worked to actually develop the plan, prioritize the strategies and actions that were included, identify best case programs to case studies to learn from. And it was an iterative process, working with the Economic Development Council, going back and forth with them multiple times to fine-tune the document to where it is today. And I'm proud to tell you that in November, the Economic Development Council unanimously approved moving the document forward to all of you. And so that's where we are today, and that's what's taken place over this last 12 months. The project goal, I did want to make sure you all knew, this is a 10-year plan, which is a kind of a longer strategic planning effort, but it is a plan specific to economic development and what the county should do, what the county team should do related to economic development activities specifically. This isn't a comprehensive plan. It's not a plan designed to touch every challenge or every opportunity that exists in the county, but really think about the things that will energize the economy and maintain a vibrant, healthy economy that benefits everyone in Indian River County. These are our Economic Development Council members. We've referenced them as steering committee members as a part of the planning process, but I just want to take a moment. I know we have several members here. They have been outstanding to work with. They have given us hours and hours and hours of their time pouring through data, helping us, introducing us to people that we should be speaking with in the Indian River community, and going through, as I said earlier, going through the strategic plan document multiple times with us. They have just given an enormous amount of energy and time, and I just can't thank them enough for their leadership. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So stakeholder engagement was really one of the linchpins of this project. We did a tremendous amount of stakeholder engagement as a part of the process. We heard from and listened to over 150 people as a part of this effort. We had 11 different roundtable sessions focused on a whole host of different topic areas, everything from talking with young professionals to real estate experts to folks who cared deeply about the environment. I want to thank Commissioner Moss for pulling those folks together and having a fantastic conversation that contributed greatly, I think, to the plan itself. But speaking to people in the agricultural industry and the healthcare industry and higher ed, so we heard a whole host of different topic areas that affect the economy. In addition to that, we had 3 site visits, so we made sure to be in every single part of the county itself. And then we had 6 town halls. I have been doing this work for 12 years. My company's been in business for 30 years. This is the largest number of town halls that we have ever done for any single project. And that was because the Economic Development Council and the county staff said, no, you have to be out in the community and you have to hear what people in Indian River County want to say about what's going to happen to this economy. And I really think that yielded a tremendous results. And it really did change the spirit and the tenor of the plan, and I think it's been fantastic. We had great conversations. I know many of you attended some of those sessions, and I want to thank you for that as well. In addition to that, we compiled a whole host of data points. We did an extensive data analysis of Indian River County. These are just a few of the examples of data components that we pulled together, but we actually pulled over 40 different data sets touching economic and demographic data and industry data and occupational data and real estate data. So we tried to look at the economy from data points in every way we could. As I said, we matched that up with stakeholder engagement work that we did to really build the plan from a foundation of understanding. So now let's talk about the action plan itself and what's in the action plan. So we've titled the action plan Treasured Tomorrow, and that was very intentional. Out of all of those stakeholder engagements that we had, it was loud and clear that people care tremendously about this community. They care about the character, about the quality of life that they have. And frankly, they treasure Indian River County. And so for us, we wanted to make sure to send the message that we understand that, and this plan understands that. And in year 3 of the implementation of this plan, year 5, year 10 in the implementation of this plan, the character and the quality of life that exists in Indian River County is absolutely essential to make sure it's maintained and strengthened through a vibrant economy, not damaged through economic growth. We also paid a lot of attention to making sure that we looked at just the size of the county's geography. When you think about, this is a county-wide plan, and so when you think about different parts of the county, economic development needs are different in different parts of the county. And so we tried to make sure to think about that when we met with people and we tried to when we thought about all of the different strategic strategies and actions in the plan. So this is the framework that we have for the plan. And before I dive into the 3 different goal areas, I did want to share with you that from the very beginning, this plan has been built to implement, to put into action. And one of the things that we've already delivered on to the county team is we took all of the strategies and all of the actions and put them into something we called an implementation matrix. And that's where we are able to then start to track priority areas and when different strategies and actions should be put into implementation. We also identified categories where you can track metrics to evaluate the success of different strategies or actions taking place, and you can monitor the activity that's taking place, really serving as a tool for the life of the 10-year plan. And then in addition to that, we have a section about where partners should be listed, because there's going to be an important role, of course, that the city team plays or the county team plays. There's an important role that the Economic Development Council plays. But there's also an important role that other partners in the community are going to play in carrying out this work. For example, the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce is going to play a pivotal role in carrying out some of the work that's listed in the document. So with that, let's dive into the three different catalysts or the three different goal areas. The first is targeted industry development. And here we identified a handful of different industries. These are traded industries by and large. Industries that bring money from outside of the Indian River County into the economy, expanding the tax base, diversifying the economy, diversifying the tax base, but also adding jobs. But one of the reasons we focused on the industries that we did as well is because these could be brought in, these could be recruited, retained, attracted with a small footprint. So it has as small an impact on this quality of life as possible, while providing all of the benefits I just referenced. And that's a big priority for us as we were thinking about the industries that we identified as targets. These will be the guideposts for the business recruitment, retention, expansion activities that take place as a part of the plan. The aerospace and manufacturing sector, of course, with Piper and building on Piper's success, we want to make sure that Piper is successful for decades and decades and decades to come. And doing everything possible to help support that, and think about other aerospace opportunities and that might be available for the county as well. And thinking about finance and insurance and professional services, leveraging, frankly, all of the high net worth individuals that you are fortunate to have here in this county, and thinking about how maybe potential satellite offices or corporate headquarters could be located here rather than other major markets around the state or around the country. In thinking about agriculture, aquaculture, and light industrial, agriculture has such a rich history in this economy and in this community. And so cherishing that, understanding and appreciating that the ag industry is still really important to this community, and making sure that we're thinking about things like agritourism, farm-to-table promotion, those types of activities to make sure that the ag industry stays vital and strong moving forward. And then healthcare. Healthcare is an industry in and of itself as well, right? But it also contributes to amazing quality of life. And so those are just some of the industries that we feel like will yield the biggest impact, the biggest results with the smallest footprint and the smallest impact on the quality of life in the community. For catalyst projects, what we identified here was just a handful of projects that were of significance to the entire regional economy. When these come online, and it will take many years for them to do that, they will benefit in tax revenue and job creation, but also quality of life for the entire community. And so making sure that these are put front and center and stay on people's minds. I know sometimes long-range projects can kind of become an afterthought, but we feel like these are so important to keep them in the very front of people's minds is going to be critical. But we also identified local catalyst projects as a part of this as well. Thinking about, we reached out to the municipal partners that we have across the county I asked them to share with us what their economic development priorities and what their economic development projects are. And so we've received some of those. I think over the 10-year horizon of the plan, we're going to see many local catalyst projects from city partners that can be incorporated in the plan as they're presented. But this is a great opportunity to have those municipalities come in and say, these are the things that we want to do, and the county look at those projects as well and say, hey, let's think about how we can partner together to make sure that this is a big success. And then the third is really county resources and services. This is the day in, day out work done on a consistent basis by the county team and the EDC and other groups to carry out all of the functions and the actions of the plan. I'll mention just a couple that stand out to me. One is, of course, having a robust and consistent business recruitment or business retention and expansion program. Being committed to going out on a consistent basis to talk to employers here in Indian River County to understand exactly what they're dealing with, how they're doing, are they experiencing challenges, are they thinking about growing, so that you can capture all of that money, that information, and share it with all of you, so you have a sense about what's actually happening in the Indian River economy. And then another example I think that's exceptional into this category is thinking about the Economic Development Council differently than it has in years past. It's been a great organization in years past to provide counsel to this group, to provide policy recommendations, but we're also encouraging that group to think of themselves as a convener of all things economic development across the county. So bringing in municipal partners, bringing in workforce development partners, other folks who are involved in things that touch the economy, and having people come together and share information and talk about collaborative opportunities so that it's more than just, of course, they will continue to provide policy recommendations, but it also will be the clearinghouse of projects and information and collaboration for economic development across the county. So with that, I did want to point out a few metrics that have been identified as a part of this project that will be measured over that 10-year horizon. Some of them are the ones that you would obviously think of: job creation as it relates to economic development activities, tax revenues generated from those activities, capital investment in the community. But there are other things that we think about. The permits reviewed, the number of permits reviewed, or unemployment numbers. So there are a whole host of different data points that we've identified in partnership with the county team to measure how these actions and initiatives are judged and evaluated over the long term. So with that, I know the county attorney wanted to make a couple remarks.
Good morning, Commissioner. Susan Pardo, Deputy County Attorney. Just really quickly, in reviewing this wonderful proposal we have here, I wanted to note that there were a couple items that we would ask to be amended in this under the attachment that you have here too for initiatives policies. That there's under figure 10, it says existing incentives toolbox. There's a couple in there that I think were thought that were actual current existing incentives, but they are not in our code. And so from a legal standpoint, we would need to have an amendment to the code to have those sort of incentives given. One of them is the traffic impact fee financing. That currently is not in existence. The financing for water and sewer impact fees, there is something, but it's only for hardship. So that would need to be amended a little bit to look into for purposes of bringing business. And there's also one for utility deposit waivers. It's not in the code. I hear that it's in our policy manual, so that would need to be updated in the code. And we really need to just take into account and to be considerate of the fact that because they are impact fees, we need to make sure we are looking at the statutes that deal with those two and what we're allowed to do and what we're allowed to, kind of toy with, if you will, to help bring some of these incentives. And I've spoken with staff about this and wanting to look and see what we can and what we can't do moving forward to have these items brought to you at a later date for any amendments that we would possibly need. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have redirect that question to the administrator and his thoughts. I think these formulas have been recognized in other, perhaps, municipalities.
Yes, there are other jurisdictions that use these, and it's to Susan's point, it would just require a code amendment reviewing our impact fee provisions. It does largely discuss hardship, how you define hardship, but the point being is for a qualified targeted industry, you'd want to narrowly, so it's not, you're not opening the floodgates, but you'd focus on those QTI type businesses. and just mending the code.
Right. In other words, we're trying to reduce any red tape at all. I think, Commissioners, that's the goal we have here.
Yes, and Councilor brought up something about the impact fees. If something is perceived as an impact fee, we can't waive it. We can grant it with taxpayer dollar, but there is, it's a little vague.
It's not proposing to waive impact fees, it's proposing a financing. Because we currently do that for hardship, so we would be expanding that for economic development, and I would even caveat that and narrow it down to any targeted industry that we identify. I don't want to use QTI because that's really, the state has a large list of QTI businesses, but what it was identified as the ones that we should be going, directing our efforts on.
So, but the verbiage has to be cleaned up so that this way it's, in other words, we'd be also having to change our ordinance.
Yes, sir. So it's not waiving as the
Right.
county administrator, it would just be for financing, but we do have to have something in our ordinance. I just wanted to clarify, there's something in here that says that it's a current, but we can't do that until we have our ordinances in place. So I just wanted to bring it to y'all's attention that the county attorney's office is willing to work with staff to look to see what would need to be amended in the ordinance and what can be amended in the ordinance, in looking with the impact fee statutes, because it is impact fees.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that I brought that to your attention, that there's a small thing in here that while it's recommending adoption of this, we just want to note that slight thing in there, that it's not necessarily, that little provision is not necessarily accurate, but the rest of it is, and we would gladly help to make any other economic incentives available that are legally allowable. So we're here to work with staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, in other words, we ask that these three items be removed from the existing toolbox because they're not really in our existing toolbox, but they could be added back in should the county choose to do that.
Okay. Obviously, we have our rough draft of our economic development strategic plan, and keeping with our theme countywide in that we don't hope to succeed, we plan to succeed. We don't hope to win a ball game, we plan to win a ball game. And by having our in-house law firm take a gander, so to speak, at our plan, it only enhances it and makes it a win to succeed. So noted, and by no means was that to damper the spirit of our plan. Please continue, sir.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chair. Well, right now, I'd like to ask Lance Lumford to come up and share a little bit of his comments as the board chair for the EDC.
Absolutely. Commissioners, it's a pleasure. Lance Lunsford, I serve as the chairman of your Economic Development Council. Just a brief note, I do want to point out that the specific decision of our council was to recommend adoption of this plan subject to any additions you as the county commission make into it. I just want to make that clear because the suggestions from Ms. Prado and from County Attorney Schuler are not inconsistent with our recommendation. We understood there may be some revisions that need to be put in place, but really this has been a year-long effort. I know so many of us in this room want to bring good paying jobs to our citizens and really want to make sure that the type of businesses that come into Indian River County fit within our way of doing things and our quality of life. Commissioner Ehrman, you and I were both born and raised in Vero Beach. Commissioner Adams, born and raised in Fellsmere, and of course, Commissioners Flesher, Lohr, and Moss, have made Indian River County their home for decades. So all of us appreciate the unique spirit and quality of life that we have here in our county. This plan is a testament to a collaborative effort, not only of the Economic Development Council, which itself has so many representatives from our banking industry, our different local industries, Indian River State College, all of the city councils in Indian River County, but also the town halls, the roundtable discussions that have been conducted across the prior year have really been a massive effort and a testament to our shared priority as your Economic Development Council. Several people I really think deserve a shout out. First and foremost, our own liaison to the Board of County Commissioners, Commissioner Adams. We thank her for her leadership. I also want to recognize the prior chairman of the Economic Development Council, Mr. Jordan Lulich, who was the real estate representative on the Economic Development Council. He was the chair throughout a lot of the creation of this document. And finally, we thank Andrea Beam from the Indian River Chamber of Commerce for the continuous collaboration and for the reports that are constantly provided to our Economic Development Council. So, Commission, I want to make clear that the recommendation of the EDC is to adopt this Economic Development Strategic Action Plan subject to any additions you deem appropriate. Thank you for your time, and I know this is a great opportunity for all of us in this county to get the ball rolling on economic development. So, thank you.
I'm happy to respond to any additional questions that any of the commissioners have.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. One of the things that I've discussed this with the county administrator is that workforce housing is not mentioned in here. And I know in response to that question, Mr. Dombrowski said that while housing is a crucial component of a healthy economy, housing initiatives are not typically addressed within economic development strategic plans. So accepting that as it may be, I discussed yesterday with the county administrator, at least acknowledging the issue, and there was a suggestion made to edit, well, I'll let you speak to it.
I spoke with Mr. Marcel. I mean, it's just a matter of, I mean, in terms of strategies and actions, some language could be crafted that would, you know, require the coordination of the Economic Development Council with the efforts of the Affordable Housing and Advisory Committee and other, you know, related, you know, housing services organizations, because obviously you always want to have that, strike that jobs balance, and you have to have, in order to attract the jobs, you have to have the housing available for the employees. We've seen that on our own end, the inability to maybe attract somebody because some of the cost of the housing, at least depending on the position.
And Commissioner Moss, I would also mention, you know, of course, in our SWOT, we referenced that workforce housing and some of the data that we analyzed. Workforce housing is clearly a challenge, and it's a challenge here. It's a challenge in almost every market that I have ever worked in, certainly over the last 6, 7, 8 years. I will say one of the things that we thought about was, you know, a lot of the actions and the work that we've identified was really has been under the purview of the Economic Development Council. We know that there's also a housing committee, and we didn't want to overstep and start saying, okay, that.
No, I'm not suggesting that you should, just that there should be some kind of cross-reference. That, you know, that's all.
And if I can just jump in, so we've had numerous discussions. I want to make this very, very clear, because the email that we received, I think, does not take into consideration, because Mr. Jacobs was not part of those conversations at EDC, that we've had numerous discussions about housing and limitations on workforce housing in the relation to economic development and recruitment and retention of businesses. So it has been referenced as we've gone through this whole process many times, and working with AHAC and working with the chamber. Specifically, they have been very involved in the workforce housing conversation, I know through their legislative committee and other committees. So it's not been discussed or talked about. It hasn't happened in a vacuum. But I would agree that where we were coming at for the EDC plan was specific to bringing businesses here and what kind of tools we could put in our toolbox to make this more attractive from a business location, recruitment and retention perspective. And then the AHAC, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and the Affordable Housing Plan, and the LHAP that we pass every year that has affordable housing tools in that toolbox, those two work hand in hand. So however you guys want to include it in there, but I just wanted to be very clear that it's not as if we have gone through this process without talking about housing the issues with housing. Everybody that sits around the table talks about that, and there is overlap in EDC and AHAC, not only from a staff perspective and position, but from a county liaison. I do sit on both of those boards, and there are people on EDC that also sit on AHAC. So there is a lot of collaboration and overlap already occurring and will continue to occur.
And I thank you, and I appreciate that. I think our mission of our targeted industries is also a direct relationship to affordable housing.
Okay, and then I'd like to ask about 1.3.3. And I'll read the section. I had a question about assist property owners in need of land transition assistance for redevelopment or environmental remediation and provide available planning and economic development resources. Who exactly would be, what party would be assisting these people? Is that the county? Is it a third party? What organization is going to assist?
Yeah, one of the greatest strengths I think that the county has right now is this new position of the Economic Development Manager at the county that has a strong background in economic development and land use, but working with that role and conjunction with other key people
So
within
this is coordination. We're not talking about funding then?
Well, if there are opportunities to help provide some guidance to some of those landowners, that would be ideal.
Okay, but it's advice. It's not, we're not asking for funding. This is not a request for funding.
I would not necessarily see that as an.
Because it mentioned assistance, so I was curious. 2.1.2, my question on that is that it says leverage the recent approval of expansion of the urban service boundary to build momentum for future county economic development projects. We had decided as a board, we're not expanding the urban service boundary, and that was in response to the community. We did workshops just on the urban service boundary, and it came back that not only did the county residents not want to expand it, but also we have room within the existing urban service boundary to support projected increase in population. So there's not a need. So I was just wondering, why is this in here? It seems to contradict what we discussed and also what came out of previous workshops.
I think it's related to the subsequent, or the below bullet that talks about the Oslo Project Corridor, because that area, if you recall, was one of the strategic expansions. It was the only one, and then we did the Oslo Corridor study, and we're currently working, there's a moratorium, and we're currently working on Oslo Corridor plan. So that does contemplate that's the only area that was contemplated, and that the board approved for the expansion of the USB.
Well, I'll just say, even with that, with the Oslo Road Corridor, the first choice with regard to workshops and the responses that we received from the community was to preserve agricultural land and open space. So I'm not sure how that jives with this. Maybe you want to state, incorporate that here, that that's the direction that was received from workshops, and we'll be doing additional workshops coming up next month. That's my understanding.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Commissioner Moss, there is a small area, approximately 1,500 acres between 66th and 82nd, between 5th Street Southwest and 13th Street Southwest, that you all did direct staff to bring in. To be clear, that, although everybody agreed in concept, the actual physical expansion of the USB has not occurred. That's going to occur with the, well, assuming you all still feel that same direction, that would occur with the adoption of the Oslo Corridor changes. So that's the only area that this specific bullet point is speaking to.
I think it's not clear here that that's the case.
Got it.
2.6.2, schedule regular meetings of city and county elected officials to discuss current projects and share new opportunities. I guess I would just say, are we actually going to do that? If we're not actually going to do that, then I don't think it should be in here. I'm in favor of doing that. I'm not sure that everyone else on the board is. I mean, last time I brought it to the board, we did not have consensus on that. So I'll just mention that. If we're not going to do it, I wouldn't have it in there. 3.3.5. Continue to evaluate potential USB expansion options. And again, this goes back to, we have the initial point I made, which is that we have the room within the current USB to accommodate any projected population increases. So I don't know why this is in here repeatedly, and the board has already said that we're not expanding the urban service boundary. That's been stated publicly, other than the Oslo Road corridor, which is the only exception at this point. So I'm not clear. We seem to be promoting something that neither the community nor the board seem to be in favor of, at least the last time we checked. So I'll state that. Figure number 7, I was just curious because education is down the list quite a bit, and yet it's my understanding that the school district is one of the major employers. So I wasn't sure how it ended up that far down the list. It's just a question.
And I'm trying to follow along in the document. You're talking about?
Figure 7 is
employment
employment by
industry
industry
sectors.
sector 2024. Sorry. And education is quite a ways down the list. I was just curious because the school district is one of our major employers.
This is by sector, not just specific principal employers. And this kind of shows about 3,500 individuals that are employed in the education sector. So what normally we list the top 10 employers. The school district is one of those, so are we. But you can see we're down there as well. But so I would just say that this is the sector as a whole, not just the employer.
All right, and finally, let's see, the SWOT, which was, it's figure 12, summary of SWOT analysis for Indian River County, Florida. And under weaknesses, it states floor area constraints, height limitations, and density restrictions. The residents don't view that as a weakness. They view it as a strength. We live and die by our height restrictions. It's not a weakness, and that's why people want to move here. I would argue that it's a strength, and that's what we see reflected when we have people come here, to address us, and that's the feeling of the community. So I don't think that's a weakness, it's a strength. And opportunities, again, we got that urban service boundary expansion. It's not an opportunity, it's a threat. That's how it's viewed by the community. We've been told that repeatedly from all of the workshops. We know that we have sufficient acreage within the existing urban service boundary to support the projected increase in population. So again, I don't know why this keeps coming up, urban service boundary, expand, when it's quite the opposite. What we've heard, what we have discussed as a board, and also what we've heard from the community at workshops. So I don't know, I'm listening, but I don't really see it reflected here. I would reconsider the repetitive urban service boundary expansion.
I appreciate your comments.
Those are my comments, thank you.
Mr. Moss, I think when you're reflecting on the USB, I think what staff was doing was including the past decisions that this body has made to incorporate and to distinguish clearly what the new, or whatever you want to call it, existing USB is. In fact, if you recall, it was simply filling a void between 74th and 58th. So some could call that an expansion, others could call that filling in that particular void, because as we know, the USB was already at 95 in Oslo. So I think that's how the clarification may be needed, that in fact they included that in their language, not to construe an idea of us doing something globally within the county with the USB. So I think that might have been some wordsmithing going on there, so.
Okay.
All right, any further questions? Yes, sir.
So I just want to, there's two things. So the paragraphs below the incentive policies recommends additional opportunities. So I think maybe the traffic impact fee financing, utility deposit waiver, financing for water and sewage impact fees, those could be dropped down into those bullets rather than completely deleting them, because those are, you're recommending those. And then the other thing, and I've shared this with members of the board, you know, the county has the ED ad valorem tax abatement exemption program. And I think somewhere it should note that there should be partnership, you know, for projects that are not in the county, but with the municipalities as well. It's not, actually, it's normal, it's typical that if a project's located in a municipality, then the municipality has skin in the game as much as the county has skin in the game, or at least that they have skin in the game, not just relying on the county abating its taxes and providing potentially job grants, because we've done both of those, and then there's no skin in the game on behalf of the municipality. I just think that's a policy that the board needs to think about as we move forward. That would require municipalities to put it on the ballot for their economic development ad valorem tax abatement, but there's other places I've been where if you don't, you got to meet or exceed the amount that the county is doing, unless there's some unique circumstances.
Okay. Okay. Doug, you got all that? So, Commissioners, this is simply a draft. I suppose this will be brought back to us at some point?
Absolutely. We'll make those adjustments as quickly as possible and make sure you have a clean copy.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone involved, particularly Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. Just for clarification, what adjustments are you making? Because there wasn't necessarily consensus on all of them. The ones that John?
So what I can do,
Okay.
what I can do is convene with the county team and capture the comments that I've taken note of, and they'll share with me the comments that they have, and then we'll get that to the entire group so that you understand kind of the adjustments and changes that we heard from all of you. Does that sound like an appropriate?
So let me just, I know Commissioner Ross brought up 2.12, and we mentioned that was really related to Oslo corridor expansion, the Oslo corridor. 2.62, I would just suggest then, if it's not elected officials, just say meetings, you know, of officials, you know, just get rid of elected, so that the counties and the cities are working together from an
I
economic.
think it should be elected, but
I understand that. I'm just saying, but I wouldn't want to forego the whole policy or the whole strategy of us getting together and coordinating with our cohorts at the municipalities. And then the other one was 3.35. I think that might be the one that the board needs to make a consensus on. It says continue to evaluate potential USB expansion options, ensure the public is heard early and often on all USB considerations. I think the request was to delete it. And then that's the ones related to the goals, objective, actions, and strategies.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that whatever changes you're making is changes that are consensus of the whole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because this has already gone through EDC, who, I see many members of EDC in the audience who thoroughly vetted this to the point of, I think you guys have redone the draft a couple of times based on that input.
It has been an iterative process, absolutely.
It has been. Commissioner Flip.
Yeah, I've heard the objections, and I appreciate the pointing out of the word expand urban service boundary. There's no discussion of that, and I get that. But it's not a camel's snoot under the tent. It has to be there. If something overwhelming comes in our path, we need to have the tool to be able to address the need and concern. It's not to say that anybody's making any changes now. And we're not enabling untethered growth. We're not, but I think we have a tremendous fear here of, or we should have one, of limiting every one of our options because a word is in a document. To say, hark, we're going to lose civilization as we know it because the word expansion is in there, or the word regarding urban service plan. There are so many other concerns to address the expansion of the urban boundary. And I think that this board has clearly stated, I actually got a little offended when we said, well, that's what the people are saying and that's what we're saying. And we did say it. I only heard one commissioner speak. I don't want to see changes that will derail all of your fine work, the 6 or 7 workshops, the work with the Economic Development Council, the work with the community, the work with this board, the individual staff, to be knocked out and say, well, bring this back, but get rid of all that stuff. Because that's not what this is about. There's a lot of work that had to be done to get us in this position. By no means did I hear you say, you got to move that urban service boundary, or we anticipate that just being popped out. I think we're being, the element of caution, and I don't know, it's like the fear factor. It's like what happened just this past week about another topic that got blown out of proportion, that blew up a community. I don't think that it's right and fair and just to be able to say, eliminate all these words. So I don't want you to leave knowing that, or believing, being led to believe that that's the consensus of this board, to say, eradicate all of those words, because we can't have any of that in this town.
I think they just need to clarify.
Well, that's not what you said.
And it doesn't need to be repeated quite that many times, because it seems like you're pushing it, repetition.
We're not pushing
I mean,
any.
No, I don't mean you, the document. It seems like it's being pushed when when you're repeated like that over and over and over again.
So if I can just offer maybe some middle ground, Commissioner Moss, I understand what now that you've clarified, I understand what your concern is. And I think that this document is specifically related to economic development. It has nothing to do, nor is it related to residential growth, which is the concern in the community, which I don't disagree with. So is there a way in 3.35 to maybe include that that what would be evaluated is related to economic development? And that might give some better clarification, because I do think that the conversation in the community is always open to conversations, not saying decisions, but conversations related to economic development, growth, good-paying jobs, and that type of thing. So maybe that would clarify that.
I think that's a good suggestion. That way it's not misinterpreted. Right now, the way it's written up, it could
Still
be.
have it in there because I think it is something that may, in 20 years from now come up, but.
Well, and this is a 10-year plan, right? And so.
It's just
to your point-
economic development only.
Yes.
So-
We have to look at beyond, but in addition, I agree, the word weakness is not maybe a fair and accurate term to place in there. It makes us sound like we're planning for not getting to the Super Bowl, not getting to a perfect performance. I understand that. The word weakness should be stricken. Would you agree?
Oh, well, that was in the SWAT.
In the
so-
SWAT?
Yeah, so you're not gonna- that was in the
The
SWAT.
weakness
all
of.
I don't think you want height
analysis.
The
limitations.
reason,
No, the community does not view height limitations as a weakness. They
So, but-
just don't. That's a huge strength. That's why people move here. That's the small-town charm. People live and die by that.
But I would
Exactly.
just, I agree with everybody on that comment. So I don't want my next comment to be taken out of context, because I do agree that the height limitation is something that our residents appreciate and keeps us small town.
It's in granite.
But yes, I mean, that's
Yes.
locked in. But I would also point out that the CVS, which is an economic development project, it exceeds the normal height limitation in Indian River County solely because it was an economic development project at the time.
Yes.
There was a carve-out made for that project. So again, getting back to talking about this from an economic development perspective, as we start looking at logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, and the way manufacturing is done today with a lot of machinery and robotics, there are some height requirements for that to happen if that is something that we want to grow and attract as an industry. So I think it is a benefit from a residential perspective, but I don't necessarily disagree that it, from an economic development perspective, it could be a weakness. So again, I think that we need to be clear that this document relates to business recruitment and retention and not to anything related to residential or housing development. So I just want to throw that out there, that we already have an economic development opportunity that has happened in the past that required, I guess, a variance or a carve-out or something. I think there's actually a specific part of the code that deals just with that property and allows it to be something greater. So that is something that would come on a case-by-case basis. But again, I totally agree with you guys that from a residential perspective, that is, and again, that's also west of I-95, in the middle of what is currently a cow pasture and old citrus grove, so.
And I think that we have demonstrated our passion for, as a board, on the height limitations and many aspects of protecting what we hold dear in Indian River County as a whole, representing all of our citizens and hearing them and understanding. It's just, I think stripping out all of that would eliminate something like CVS, which I understand that, well, yeah, we lived it. It was a very difficult time to push that window, and as a matter of fact, it has provided a lot of jobs, a lot of commerceability here in Indian River County, but by the same token, they said they couldn't do it again. It would have to be different. And I don't think that we could support something like that in the future if it was to be built to what technology has brought forward. Because as with what was happening at the mall, not just to get into some of the discussion, we might recall how favorable that was about somebody wanting to put up like 5 stories and extensions and all that.
So maybe this is another place where we can
Right.
include some language to make it very clear that this is an economic development
It is,
report and tool, and it's not in any way, shape, or form to be
Changing it around.
cross, whatever the word I'm looking for, discipline
point, you
areas
might
to be
just-
then applied or taken into consideration from a residential housing growth perspective.
Right, so not a backdoor to any density changes, location, size, scope, height. Yes, well agreed. But I don't think we're touching that window by
So,
documenting.
to that point, you might want to in that weakness area, you might be floor area constraints, because FAR is commercial and industrial, and height limitation restrictions, and remove density.
Mr. Chair, I also have a comment, and I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to muddy the waters, and I understand what you're saying, but I will say this, and I want, and obviously, if we had a project come before you, we would be looking at all the angles, but height limitation, even if you limit it to a commercial context now with Live Local, can have other impacts. In other words, if you're granting a height increase, that would drive projects in the Live Local context. And that's, so I'm not trying to muddy the waters.
No, I understand. I
and
mean-
we would look at that. I just want
Right.
that's part of that conversation, and it is to do with housing.
And I think that the goal of this is just to kind of provide some direction for future discussions on economic development, to provide staff the opportunity to craft some additional tools that we might need in our toolbox, or that we might not agree that we need, but to at least have those conversations. And this is just kind of a roadmap to the future work of Economic Development Committee as well as staff. So Live Local blew everything out of the water, so I completely understand that. And that's something that, you know, we're dealing with AHAC. But I do think if we can just make it clear that this is an economic development study for economic development purposes, then it should clarify some of the concerns that I'm hearing from the fellow commissioners.
So, and could I just add, and Jeff, you can validate this, I think by saying floor area constraints and height limitation restrictions, that's really a weakness in it. It limits, or it makes us be a little bit more judicious in what industries and what, you know, businesses we attract, because of the fact there may be some. It's not saying that it's a weakness of the community, just like from an economic development standpoint, site selectors have very specific criteria, and site selectors, I need this, so I need 75 feet of height. Oh, you can't do that, and then they move on. If you can't do 75 feet, they'll move on. They're not gonna, they just wanna, so this is just noting that as we go forward, that the businesses that we've identified, the sectors, that this may potentially cause some of those not to be able to come to fruition, but there are others that are smaller scale that can be. Just like, I think that's all it's saying. But I think removing density clears up the whole residential component.
I agree, and that is exactly the case. So,
Well, thank you, Commissioners. We have a decision to make. The recommendation is to approve this particular plan. What is this board's fancy?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve with the changes as discussed amongst the commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? And the motion carries.
When will we see that? When will you be bringing it back? I mean, just distributing it,
so,
changes.
yeah, I would imagine on our end, we'll move as quickly as we possibly can, but I know that it takes time to get things on the agenda, those kinds of things, but I'll turn to our county staff team to help with those things.
Thank you, Commissioners. This moves us on to the Solid Waste Disposal District, items 16B1 through 16B5.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I would like to make a motion in bulk for approval of all the minutes as attached to the solid waste disposal district.
Commissioners, we have a bulk motion to include all of the solid waste disposal meeting minutes, and I will second that. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners, finally, it's our opportunity for public comment on any non-agenda related matters. Anyone from the public wants to speak about anything that is, anything that you'd like to speak about, we ask that you name yourself and your address, and we limit our comments to 3 minutes, and we do not have dialogue. We'd like to hear your point. Thank you. Good morning. Clerk, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Walter McNulty, 2129 Harwick Circle, southwest, Vero Beach, 32968. I just wanted to ask you because, like it came up the other, I think Commissioner Flesher brought up the other night's meeting and so forth. I think that meeting did not have a whole lot to do with who owned it or anything else. I think it really boiled down to, that is AG2 property out there. I personally, in talking to many, many people, would like to see, because the county likes to invest in property, we bought a lot of it just since the first of the year, or the last month of last year also. I'd like to see the county find a way to either incentivize that property for cattle ranchers, farmers, anybody like in the agricultural to come in and take that property, or to actually buy it and do some type of lease to an agricultural department. Somehow to find a way to incentivize people to go out and take that land. And the ones who currently own it, I believe it's a house or a building, and then the rest has to be ag, right? Is that correct on the property out there?
Sir, this is not the portion where we exchange with you. We listen to your
Okay,
comments.
okay. Well,
And if
either
you'd
way-
like to meet with this individual, we'd be happy to.
Okay, then I would do that also, but I would just like you to take under consideration coming up with a way to incentivize, because we're talking about development and, businesses, seeing if we can get some of the cattle farmers. I mean, if anybody looked at the report last week, of course, the Cattle Ranchers of America and the Cattle Farmers of Florida, we were rated pretty high, and that's a perfect opportunity to bring in a industry that we could certainly use right now, because everybody knows how much steak is. So other than that, that's all I have, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, and those are very good ideas, Mr. McNulty, that some of us perhaps have not thought of. Good afternoon. Name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name's Karen Osborne. I live at 2800 65th Drive, kind of behind the Indian River Mall. One of my comments that you were mentioning is if we were to bring some good businesses to town, the housing. And for example, there's a new apartment building going up across from us that the rent for 3 bedrooms is almost $3,000 a month. So I would think somehow if y'all are looking for affordable housing, by approving some of these apartment buildings, you're not doing anyone any favors. Just my comment on that. And on the hardship exemption thing that you briefly mentioned, I think if a company's coming into town, they need to be, what's the right word, well-financed enough that they don't need to be starting to ask for favors like a hardship exemption right off the bat, because new businesses should be a boon for us and not a drag. And I don't feel that that's like a great first impression. And I had one other comment, but I forgot. So thank you.
Ms. Osborne. Good afternoon. Any further comments from the public? Good afternoon. Name and address for the record.
Just recovering from oral surgery, so I'm talking a little funny, but I just wanted to say, especially Laura Moss, thank you for reminding the commissioners and the public that we do care about height restrictions. CVS may have been, gotten an exemption, but as far as we, the people, we don't want to raise the height restrictions in Indian River County, so I just want to remind everybody of that. And she's correct that most of the community is in support of keeping our height restrictions low. It is part of what makes Vero Vero. I also spoke with an elected official this week who shall remain nameless that acknowledged that our infrastructure has not kept up with our growth. And that is a huge concern for all citizens. And I would like to see that addressed. We have many, many questions about the Epic development, and we would like to know when we can get answers to our questions. I know that you said, Commissioner Lohr, that we could meet with you privately, but we would like to see those questions answered in writing. because we do have a lot of valid, legitimate questions. One of them might be, I've heard numbers from 1 dwelling per 10 acres to 1 dwelling per 20 acres if it's zoned agriculture. But we have a lot of questions, especially about infrastructure. We have heard ad nauseum for years now about our poor water quality, saltwater intrusion, and all this. So how are these issues going to be addressed, and when might they be addressed? When is EPIC going to be on the agenda again, so we don't make the same mistake? Commissioner Flesher said that some people blew up the community. Could you please explain what blowing up the community is? When people show up and express their concerns, is that blowing up the community? I think not. I'm very proud that 200 or 300 people showed up to express their opinions to the county commissioners because you were elected to represent us, not to be treated like kindergartners. So I think that your comment is in poor taste. I think that when the community shows up to express their opinions, that's why you're here, is to listen to people's opinions. So.
We don't have dialogue.
Okay.
So thank you,
I wanna
and I would
speak
like
to
to see the answers to some of those questions in writing, and the public deserves that. So I would like to know also, you know, when the next, when EPIC is going to be on the agenda
We
next time.
appreciate your concerns, and if they ever get on our agenda, it will be publicized. And we do thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, the time now is 12:11. This meeting is adjourned.